competing views. You want something where Asa is grimacing. Something has gone wrong.
Everything's perfect. Carry on smoothly, because in post this will be fine.
Okay. What that means now. But, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining us. Asa has put me off, but that doesn't matter. Asa, the co-host, co-founder of GameOnDaily.com, the news aggregation website, and of course, this YouTube channel is here to hold me by the bosom. How are you, Asa?
I will not be holding you by the bosom, Gaz, but apart from that, everything you said was true and wonderful. I'm great because Tuesday is a very special day. Tuesday is Pancake Day, right?
Ooh.
Pancake Day.
No.
The last day where anyone cares about pancake games, because Wednesday's virtual reality day. Tuesday is actually Pancake Day as well, so it just works really nicely. I'm good. I'm looking forward to this. So I'm going to have some good chat.
We will. Oh God, you had to work that in there. So enjoy the peasant with us peasants. Enjoy our 2D or whatever games, pancake games that can get suck into your PSVR, which is going to be a topic today, first topic of the day. But before we do that, we've got these excellent gents coming in, making his return again. And there's a reason for it, other than the fact that he's sexy and he's got a dank beard. He has the sauce. Ladies and gentlemen, it is Wandering Dutch. What's up, sir? How you doing?
What is up? I am looking forward to today. It's going to get saucy. I'm looking forward to it. Great, the podcast with K Mega for the first time as well. So that's awesome. But yes, I'm looking forward to today. It's always a good time here. And it's a full show for me this time. Last time I came on, I only managed half.
Yeah, exactly. So it's
thank you
good.
For the return invite.
No, absolutely. We needed all of you here, and there's a lot to get through. So yeah, definitely. And last but certainly not least, making his debut onto Go Live, it is an illustrious gentleman. If you dare challenge him in any fighting games, he will embarrass you. It is.
Oh my God.
K Mega, yeah! Welcome. How you doing, man?
How you doing, man? Thanks for having me on, man. Appreciate the panel, everybody. Wandering Dutch, especially first time working with you, man. Working with everyone. So this is pretty fun, man. I mean, of course, me and Gaz, we go back and forth. We have on Twitter, on Ham Solo or somewhere else. We've had difference of opinions. So this will be fun. I'm ready to dip into the sauce, or dip someone in the sauce, whichever the case may be. But I'm ready. I'm ready to get started, man. Yeah, man. I always enjoy coming in and being a part of other people's podcasts and things like that. So, man, I really do appreciate the invite, man. Thank you so much.
No, absolutely. It's the pleasure's ours, and thank you so much. And I hope we can entertain you. Of course, we will, K-Mega.
Of course.
Because of all the weeks you come on a week where there's a lot of topical stuff, which we might butt heads. I don't know. We'll find out.
Yeah,
we'll find out. First topic, where I probably butt heads with Ace on this. You are so hyped about this device, but you're in good company, Asa. PlayStation VR 2, the reviews are out, and the general consensus is, I can't say the word consensus anymore, is that this device is excellent. But there are some buts in there. And before, Asa, you are the man to lead this conversation, but I'll add some spice to it. There have been, IGN says, as a quantum leap over its predecessor. Digital Foundry is very impressed, but John Lineman had at the end of his conclusion, said, very, very impressed, but said, wait and see because of the price point. And he mentioned that point. Kind of Funny Games, they've been getting it from the PlayStation guys pretty hardcore, who haven't had a chance to even use the device, but are defending it quite strongly. But said the PSVR 2 is a mixed bag. In most ways, it's a step up from PSVR, but it's still hard to recommend when cheaper and more comfortable VR options are available. I don't know what those options are, but you are going to enlighten us, Asa. Everyone is waiting for your review. about this device, the true review, right, Asa? What's your take on PSVR?
Do you know, not even just me, not me as the one true authority on all things virtual reality. I am that, right? I'm not. But the people that have reviewed this device so far, much as they're saying things that I like to hear and they like the device, fuck them all. They are a bunch of shills. There are very few exceptions, right? The way that Sony have played PlayStation VR 2's marketing is very careful, very considered. They've hooked up with a lot of influential people, given them this device for free, and let them at it. And very few of them are worth listening to. And I say that it's I know that's quite a thing to say live on the internet, but absolutely there are a few exceptions. So if you go to ACG, Jeremy Penter, that's a man that knows VR. It's a man that is paying money for his PlayStation VR device. You can listen to what he says and you can trust those words. Yeah. You mentioned Digital Foundry. They're a very professional outfit, and what they say is worth listening to as well. But all the rest of them, much as they're saying positive things, and I want to say, yeah, look everyone, this device is phenomenal. All of these people are saying that it's good. I care about a word that they say, so let's wait until Wednesday and see what real people think of it.
Okay, well, that's pretty. That was spicier than you've ever been, but I mean that's pretty raw. I don't think I've ever been that scathing. Well, hey, people in chat, how many times do I have to keep telling you it is Asa who is the raw one? But we don't shy away from discourse here, and well done to everyone here. I guess pat ourselves on the back. That sounds weird, but I don't know. But it's true. We are independent. Someone was yesterday, just before I go to the gents, was saying because I shared the Redfall stuff. Oh, Sony pay GameOnDaily. Make up your mind. Are we an Xbox channel? Are we a PlayStation channel? No one pays us. We're fully independent. We'll tell whoever we need to tell to piss off, and I hope there's some value in that for our audience who like some integrity discourse, something just unfiltered stuff, not trying to make ourselves look like Messiah. But Asa, you are right. Ultimately, people should make their minds up for it. But I don't know if this device is worth. I'm a bit skeptical about this device, and it's not because of the hardware, and that's where I'm going to lead on to the gents. K Mega Man, I think you literally bought a 4090 or something crazy.
Yeah, 4080. Yeah,
4080.
Yeah,
how much is that? Yeah. That is a lot of money.
Yeah, it's a lot of money, like about 12. Yeah, 12.
But that's just for the graphics card. Well done. So that's me priced out from upgrading my PC. What are you gonna do with PSVR 2? Are you locked out of it? Do you think it's a good price? What's your thought on this device?
Well, okay. So for the specs, it does it matches up very well for the price point. But in reality, and I think, and I'm trying to, I do understand a little bit of what Sony's method is, especially with their marketing. They're now trying to present everything as premium. Their TVs, their audio devices, video game, the console, everything is, and now their peripheral, everything is premium. The only problem with that is that console gamers are pretty fickle. PC gamers are probably the most fickle when it comes to spending extra money, but console gamers aren't that different. So when you're talking about buying a console that you raised up for $50 more compared to its predecessor, or I should say predecessor, but it's its competition with it, which is Xbox, and then you look and you see that this peripheral is the same price, $550 US. That's nuts, especially if somebody doesn't have a PlayStation 5 already. And
that's a
so
hard sell.
That is a very hard sell. So yeah, for the masses. And so therefore it's their strategy. Sony's strategy is a little bit odd on this. I understand they're trying to give this impression of this premium product of, look at our specs compared to anything else that's in the market. Especially like there's a VR that's like $1,200 or something like that. So it's at that sweet point. The problem is that they're trying to appease the console gamer, and I just don't see that it's going to appease the PlayStation fan like that. It's all good and great for the marketing aspect to try to say, well, this is a premium product. This is just for you exclusively. But really, the true VR enthusiasts are PC gamers. not console gamers. So to me, so that's why I'm like, if you go ahead and you say that this was going to be a month or two or whatever, that you was going to have it just exclusive for PlayStation 5, okay, but why are you leaving out the PC gamer? And that to me is the part that where their marketing strategy is kind of falling short, because I just don't see this actually really flying off shelves until it gets to a sweet price point. And I think of that sweet price point is around $300. So right now, when you're looking at a premium of $550 on top of the games that has been raised up an extra $10, that's a lot. That's a lot to ask for, you know, in my opinion. So if for the diehards, for the people that are enthusiasts that really want to jump in and play, get their hands on it because they were a fan of the first one, they'll do it. But I still feel like they cut that number almost in half, because there's going to be some other people's like, man, I thought VR was cool, but man, it ain't that cool. So that's my whole thought on it. I think for the specs, it looks great, but money wise, it's just too much, man. Too much to ask for.
I think I mostly agree with all you're saying, particularly angled as console gamers. And one of the biggest criticisms or maybe worries, or John Lineman highlighted the fact, was that, well, you can't actually use this on PC. Modders will obviously bypass that. The device isn't on its own, and the specs and the controller, it just, like, the price point, I understand it, is great, especially comparatively. But for the console market, it's going to be questionable. And apparently you don't need to pre-order it now. They're still available pretty freely. And I'm leading on that, Dutch. Do you think that this device will have an uphill battle, like K-Mega suggesting, with the console crowd as a sell? And what's your general take on the device as well, before we go into specifics on them?
Yeah, I've had my fair share of VR experience over the years, and it's not something I want to continue to invest in whilst it is the way it is. Ace is the only one I know that has true VR experience, because he's got the whole treadmill going, he's got all of the headsets, he's got what VR should be. Like VR, if you have a truly like interactive virtual experience, should be what Acer's doing on a treadmill. And yes, it's a workout at some points, but it also immerses you in that game far more than just wearing a headset, sitting there with some controllers and like sitting around. It's not quite the same thing. Like VR, in my opinion, is more like what you'd see in Ready Player One, which is kind of what is the kind of stuff that Acer's doing with his treadmill mixed with AR. So
fully submerged in that
full
universe.
Submersion. That's VR in its prime. But again, as much as the headset specs alone are great, PlayStation this year, on 2 sets of its controllers, have failed the basics, and it's the battery life. Like, the Pro controller, in itself, we'll touch on that first. The Pro controller has come out with only a 1,000 milliamp battery, which is less than half of that in the Series 2 Elite. It's also 500 milliamp less than the regular DualSense,
which is already bad in my opinion.
And then you add those DualSense features to controls that you're meant to use for VR and VR immersion. And again, from reviews, people don't really touch on it, but kind of funny got some heat for it. And they're saying, listen, like, I was playing for an hour and a half and the battery life was down to 1 bar. And when you think about that, you think, and he's like, I don't know how long this 1 bar is. Is it like one of the 1 bar sections where it lasts another hour or two? But even then, when you're playing, you don't want that kind of thing, especially if you're or halfway through a game session, have to put it on charge, and then you kind of stuck out and waiting for a bit. Like, at best of times when you're playing VR, you're playing for maybe 2 to 3 hours at most, really, until you start to get a little bit eyesore. At least for me, in my experience, one of my main things is if I played it for too long, then I would start to get issues with the eyes, start to get headaches and things like that, and then I'd have to take it off. But I think the price point is a massive sticking point. I think what the others are alluding to is the fact that the Quest, the newest Quest, is obviously wireless first and foremost, which is one of the biggest factors. But secondly, it's also got a massive library for itself in comparison to what PlayStation's launching with. And granted, they're launching with quite a few games, but the sticking point is those games are far more expensive than that on Quest, far more expensive than the VR games that you can find on PC, as Acer will know. And to get those premium experiences and premium games on PlayStation, you're going to have to essentially pay what you would pay for a premium game that isn't VR. So you're paying, if you don't already have a PlayStation, you're $500 for the PlayStation, then you're paying $600 for the headset, then you're also paying $70 for each game that you're getting, well, anywhere between $50 and $70 for each game that you're getting. So you're already like $1,200, $1,300 in the hole before you've even done anything. I think that is one of the major sticking points, and it was always a sticking point with the original when it came out, and that wasn't even anywhere near the price of this one. It was still the same as the console, and I don't know how you can. And obviously, the only way to experience it is with the console, unlike any of the Quest, which is completely aside from it. You don't need anything for the Quest. You can just play the Quest as is. Obviously, you can get other headsets on PC, but you can use them on other platforms or use them for other things. So it's such a mixed bag. I just don't feel like. I just don't feel like at the moment they've got much going in their favor. It doesn't help the way that the economy is, and people like to say this: "Oh, if you gaming isn't gaming's a very, should we say it? It's
a luxury, isn't it? I don't think
expensive, so. It's expensive hobby now. Yeah, that's what gaming has become. Yeah,
it's life for us. But
exactly.
It's a hobby at the end of the day, and people that are on the bottom line and want to experience it aren't even going to think about picking this up, especially right now when the cost of everything's so high. So I think they've got a few things going against them. First of all, the price of the headset is too much. As great as the actual visor's capability is, I don't think the price at this point warrants it. It doesn't. It's not. It's priced higher than the actual console you're playing it on, which is one of the.
Is that why? Despite all the specs, despite doing so much OLED display, it's going toe to toe with a lot of PC VR headsets.
See, because if somebody has yet to pick up a PlayStation 5, and you know the only way to play PlayStation VR 2, and you really want to play that, is to buy a PlayStation 5, you've got to have at least £1,200 in your pocket.
Yeah.
There's a point. I just wanted to make a point here because Pete in the chat said a PlayStation VR costs $399, camera costs $59, the Move controllers cost $99. Everybody complaining about the cost didn't buy the original. That's the problem, though. Nothing is backwards compatible. I mean, see that to me, the games are not compatible. Yeah, if the games were backwards compatible, or if at least the Move sticks was backwards compatible, fine. And I think another problem is that the thing is wired. That's one thing that Dutch was implementing, is that like this thing is still wired when you got a cheaper model that isn't. And that still causes more problems at the end of the day. And then, of course, when you bring up the battery life, I didn't even think about that aspect. So it's just, to me, it's like you're hindering the people that did support your peripheral, and then their reward is, will pay us more. You know what I mean? That just doesn't make any sense to me. Not at all. So,
and the thing is with the battery life specifically is it's such a cost-effective means of upgrading that they could have implemented and didn't. Like, from a consumer standpoint, I can buy a battery for the DualSense or the DualShock 4 for £10. That is 2,500 milliamp hour batteries on Amazon. It's exact make and model to fit any of the controllers. And you're telling me on a bulk buy, they couldn't have included these higher and put them into the controllers, both the DualSense controllers for the VR and the Pro controller. They're doing a Nintendo, and I hate saying that, but Nintendo are prime suspects of cheaping out on equipment in order to make massive profits. And this feels like this is an area where PlayStation are cheaping out on components in order to make huge profit. And that's what they've done. They did it a lot with the actual PlayStation 5, where they had to reduce the heat sinks, they reduced all of the materials, they reduced a lot of the copper within the console in order to get the price down for manufacturing, but get the price up. They actually increased the price of the console, but reduced the price of how much it is to produce. So It's
you're not
out
very happy
massive
with
profits.
Sony's money savings being passed on to the consumer.
Well, that's the thing. They were still making profits on the original units. They reduced the cost of producing it.
Well, I will counter that. That was 2019 information, and when the Ukraine war happened after, there's nothing concrete to suggest that them making a profit was still being the case after the fact. Hence why Microsoft have adopted the policy. Well, and by the way, brace yourselves. Xbox is going to raise, I'm quite certain they're going to raise the hardware price globally for the series consoles, because then they cannot withstand $100 loss per console, like Phil Spencer said, and let that happen. He's alluded to that happening, and it seems like all three things: Game Pass, the price of the consoles, as well as the games, which has already happened, is $70 thing. All that's going to happen. But
I think it depends on on Xbox's side, because they haven't revised. We know that they haven't revised the actual original build units for the Xbox Series X or Series S at all since it was released. It's still the same units, still using the same equipment, still using the same manufacturing processes. They haven't changed any of the internals. PlayStation have had 3 revisions, so they've got 3 or 4 SKUs in the wild of both the digital and the physical version of the console, and all of them are refinements that have reduced the production cost. Microsoft have yet to do that themselves, so it depends on whether or not Microsoft go down the route on finding a more cost-effective method of production, or whether or not they just increase the unit price. So it's a wait and see on Microsoft's side, but you're absolutely right. They could very well increase the price. I think the only console that won't increase its price will be the Series S.
That's what I was just going to say. That's why I was going to agree. I said the Series S is going to probably decrease in price, so it could still be that valued console.
Oh, wow. Okay, so you can keep that or decrease the price. Okay.
Yeah, I think that
the main benefit for the Series S over the Series X is the method in which they build. It's the method in which they build the console. So Series X has a split motherboard, obviously, and it's an entirely different, unique, and proprietary build in comparison to most. Like, there's no other console ever had a split motherboard. And the actual manufacturing costs alone, just for that, is one of the sticking points. The Series S, however, is just a standard build. There's nothing different about that, so it can maintain its price level. I think if you have to cut costs on the Series X, it's going to have to be a rebuild, shall we say.
Do you guys think that there'll be pro versions coming for both consoles eventually?
Yeah, I think in about 2 years, I think.
That's okay. I was going to leave that to another topic, but that's a good question. After you mentioned it.
Yeah, we'll come back to that as a topic, but just to pull it back over, there's been a lot said there about PlayStation VR 2 that some of it I agree with and some of it I quite don't, and some of it just needs a little more context. So all of this stuff, one of the things that keeps coming up, a lot of people are asking for PlayStation VR to support the PC market, which is fair. Like, as a consumer, I would want my hardware to work on the PC, but at the same time, Sony aren't making money on that thing. So the only way that they're going to support it on the PC is if they have a PC storefront or a big catalog of virtual reality games. They're not going to supplement the price of the hardware for PC gamers to go and buy games on Steam. It wouldn't make any sense to them. So it might happen one day. Sony could very well make it happen. They could have their own storefront where they're selling virtual reality games in the PC space, and that would be a win-win for everybody. But we're quite a long way off of that. And anyone that's thinking I'm going to get it and rely on the mod community to make this thing work for me, do not buy it under that assumption. It's possible the mod community will try, but that is so far off of a safe bet right now. The person that got PlayStation VR 1 working on PC does not think it's ever going to be possible. So that's an opinion to trust, because this is the person that does this work. So don't go and buy it for the PC until it's actually already working over there. The other one, the price point, comparing it to Quest 2 is... It's like console gamers saying, why would I buy a console when I can play Diablo Immortal on my phone? Like, it is a different experience. It is not the same thing. So in terms of, yes, virtual reality is niche. Yes, it's got an uphill battle. Yes, not many people are going to buy this thing. Like, it's not going to sell bucket loads and make virtual reality mainstream overnight. Of course it's not. But it is a good entry point of price if you want high-end virtual reality, which is a different market to the Quest. The Quest is like 400 quid, 400 monies, and it has games. It has some overlap in what you can play, but it is very different to high-end PC VR. It is very different to what PlayStation VR is offering and what people hope that PlayStation offer with this device, which is a massive reinvigoration into high-end virtual reality software, which has been lacking for a couple of years. The other big concern that is very fair, if you're on the fringes of it, if you're sitting on the fence going, I don't know, I quite like the idea of virtual reality, but Sony didn't really support PlayStation VR 1 for very long, and I don't know that they're going to support PlayStation VR 2 for very long. That's absolutely a fair concern, and there's not like a good answer to that, because there is every chance that if this thing doesn't get any sort of steam, Sony would drop it after a year or two, and it would be a waste of money, which would be a massive shame. For me, it's such a good device. It's so worthwhile. There are problems with it. I'm going to get my hands on it, and I'm going to go through it properly, but things like this cable, the cable is a problem for me. It's much better. It's a massive upgrade over PlayStation VR 1, but it is still a cable, and virtual reality is so much better when you can turn around without killing yourself in the process. So
it's true. I had that Lenovo device that you told me to buy. I remember I bought it, and that one cable constantly around my neck. It was really annoying.
It's not like there is the serious issue with managing the cable, but it's also it encourages people to then turn using analog sticks, and that's when they're going to start throwing up. So there is like big incentives to get rid of a cable in that sense as well. But there's so much like hope and encouragement around this thing that it's quite sad to see people just say like, I don't like it because it's niche and I'm a casual gamer, it's not for me. Like perspective wise, I know I'm being facetious there, right? Perspective wise though, it's imagine like, so say I'm here, I'm a virtual reality person, there's a big audience of console gamers saying nobody cares, that's a niche, I don't care. Guess what, console gamers, there's a massive audience of mobile phone gamers saying exactly the same thing about you. Why would I spend money on a console? It's a better gaming experience. You can say that. You're in that market. You love your console gaming. You can say this is a better gaming experience. Of course it's worth the money to me. I'm sitting here saying VR is a better gaming experience. It's worth the money to me. You don't have to. You don't have to agree. You don't have to like virtual reality. What I find weird, though, is the big audience of people that pretend that they've never been interested in virtual reality as a concept. Then people be frauds. Everyone's been interested in it conceptually.
I was going to say, I am interested in VR as a concept. I much prefer a lot of the experiences. Like I'm a very, very into videography and cinematography and things like that. And I have a proper 360 camera for when I'm traveling or going and traveling worldwide and things like that to be able to use that. And then that is an awesome thing to bring back and show relatives who aren't able to travel or something like that a lot of these 3D, completely immersive experiences that they couldn't have done without the use of that equipment. And again, there's a lot of that kind of stuff on VR that's absolutely awesome. Likewise, things like simulators, flight sim, racing games, etc., are absolutely ideal for VR. It completely changes the game and changes the perspective of those games when you have a VR headset on, because specifically in flight sim and things, you can be looking around, especially if you're like dogfighting or something in the skies, and you can be looking around to find the enemy at every
Rogue Squadron
2 seconds.
was better for
Instead
it.
of like doing the analog sticks and trying to fly straight at the same time, you can be looking around properly and enjoying it. Same with racing, you can kind of be looking in the wing mirror behind you to see who's there. And this is one of the reasons I think Acer's looking forward to this. One of the things he's pointed out was Gran Turismo, and been looking forward to playing Gran Turismo for me. VR. Yeah,
I don't even care about Gran Turismo, which is like a poorer racer, and not that I've played GT7 compared to Forza typically, but it's the VR aspect that is the kind of thing I'm coming around to Acer's house to play. I've invited myself around.
I think for me, Acer though, I mean, on the price front, aside from you looking for it and it being worthwhile to you, do you think the price front overall though in the general populace, do you think the price front is maybe a little bit too high? And I said originally, if it was anywhere close to 600, it's not worthwhile in the grand scheme of things.
My thoughts on it, and I should clarify because what I said then was a little bit trolly and a little bit controversial. When I say that people that are when I say people that are conceptually against virtual reality, I mean like the pipe dream, like you were talking about Ready Player One. Like everybody has at some point in time when you've envisaged where gaming is going, being in gaming worlds in one mechanism or another. That's conceptual, and a lot of people pretend that they've never been interested in that. To say that you're not interested in virtual reality as it stands today is a very different position to take, and one that I can respect, because it's definitely not for everyone. A lot of people suffer motion sickness. A lot of people don't want to be disconnected from the world. A lot of people just don't think that the technology is where it needs to be yet. And that is a respectable opinion. If you're coming from there, like that's fine. I have no problem with that whatsoever. But if you're saying like, you never thought it would be fun.
See, I'm not. Oh, no. You're fine. I just was saying that, like, for me, virtual reality is just not in my wheelhouse. I've been an early enthusiast, and I'm not comparing the two. I'm just saying I've tried it back with the Nintendo back in the '90s. It was awful with the Virtual Machine, Virtual Boy, and then all that. And then my son, he's really big into VR, so he brings his Vive over or whatever. It's cool, but it's like, for me, this is my thing with it. Is it worth the money if I'm going to, how much time am I going to invest in it for the money? That's my thing. If it's around a $300, I would maybe consider trying it out, because as a gamer, I don't mind trying out any and everything. You know what I mean? But again, I don't have a PlayStation 5 yet. I still just got my PlayStation 4. I wanted the digital PlayStation 4. I don't want to because all my PlayStation games on my 4, which I got like 170 some PlayStation 4 games on it, I wanted to just be transferred to digital. And so for me, that's one of the reasons why I was like, well, I'm buying a lot of these PlayStation 5 games on the PC now. So therefore, maybe I could play Gran Turismo once it comes on, and then if they got the PSVR 2 come, maybe that might be something if the price is sweet. But it's not sweet, and it's not going to be coming on the PC. And you made your point, which makes a lot of valid points, Asa. So to me, that's my thing. It's not. If for people who loves VR, who are all about it, go right at it. For me, it's just how many times am I going to play that thing? Like, if I'm going to play it, because I don't see it to where I'm going to be playing it as much as I did the Kinect. You know, because then when it came to the point to where my kids got older, they're in college or they're working, like, and then when the Kinect came up on when the Kinect 2 came with the Xbox One, you know what I mean? Like, I wasn't really using it that much. So that's the thing for me. Does it make sense for me to add a peripheral into this house just for it to just sit in my closet after a few experiences? That's my thing. It's not about about technology. Yeah. So
I'm there with you because that's my
when you mentioned Connect there, this is just me and the way that I embrace gaming. If there is something new that sparks my interest that I think can deliver a new kind of gaming experience that I haven't had before, then I'm over it like a rash, because that just that's what excites me in the industry. So I was really excited by Kinect. I bought an Xbox One before I bought a PlayStation 4. We know how Kinect turned out. Maybe PlayStation VR 2 is going to flop as well, but it's bringing something new, and that is what I'm here for. In terms of your question, Dutch, on the price, I try and avoid saying what is and isn't worthwhile, because obviously everybody's got a different perception of value. But I will say very sincerely, do not think that Sony wanted to be charging the price that they are. I think they wanted it to come in at most the price that the PlayStation 5 launched at, probably 50 quid less than that. But we saw that Meta had to raise the price of their headset by $100 last year. Like, the industry challenged them. So I really don't think that they wanted it to be the price that it is, and they're just trying to make the best of it. In terms of value, looking at it relative to other propositions on the market, if you want a high-end VR experience in the PC space, so you want that like higher quality game than you can get from a mobile processor, it is actually a good price. Like the PlayStation 5, like the whole whack, is ridiculously expensive for something that you may or may not like. So I get that not a lot of people are going to buy it, but if you are comparing it to like a high-end PC with a decent GPU and a nice professional headset, you're paying a lot more in that space. So it's a difficult one, because they are going to struggle to sell it there. But
I think the other key thing to think about for this as well is, and I think Asa, you've kind of touched on it, is how much and how well are they actually going to support this on the software front? Like the launch lineup, 50 games, brilliant. That's a good start, but it needs to be a consistent array of those games going forward, alongside their regular first-party offerings for those without VR. So it kind of needs to be interesting. They need to have the same level of VR input as they do, same level as first-party input. I think that is the only thing that's going to get this to sustain, and that's the only catch, I think, from Sony's side, is are they going to invest the same amount of effort in the VR software front as they are their regular first party to be able to continue to make this thing work? Because it's all good people investing 600 quid for a headset, but if after a year there's literally nothing coming out for it, or it's like 2 games a year or something, you're like,
Yeah, and that's it's exactly what I said earlier. That is a very valid concern. If you're looking at that device at the moment going, well, this is a lot of money, are Sony going to drop it like they essentially did the first one, like they did the Vita, like they've done many other things, like all companies unfortunately do with big products? It is very hard to promise that Sony are going to keep supporting this thing. And realistically, we know it's not going to sell like console numbers. It's not going to sell 20 million and sustain AAA development by itself. It's just not. Sony have said that they're going to look at hybrid development for their first party games. So maybe the next Last of Us game does support it. Maybe the next Spider-Man game does support it. Maybe the next God of War does support it. And if they actually hold true to that and do it, then that may be a cost-effective way to develop games. If they don't, if they just drop this thing on its arse, I mean, don't come back to me. I never told you they were going to support it for 2 years. I don't have a clue. I just hope that they do.
Well, see, before going to quite a few super chats, and we can dip into that, I will say Horizon Call of the Mountain was a very important title to kind of lead out the gate, to kind of sell this device without obviously being eyes on with it. The reviews have been pretty lukewarm to okay, and then 79 on meta whatever is not something that would have enticed it. I was expecting this like big difference, like that's it. If it was like a mid 80s to a 90 meta, I'm like, all right, now we've got software to back the hardware. And my question is, what is Sony's strategy here? Because you say it's niche, and I completely understand. I'm with you there, Asa. I believe in VR. Conceptually, I'm stuck thinking about like the zen of gaming. I've overused this term so much, but VR is there. It's at the heart of that thing, and I so want PSVR or any VR to succeed.
Yeah,
I find these are baby steps towards that. So that tech, but if the software is not there, then that's why am I being asked to make the jump on a price point and believe in a vision where you failed and let PSVR 1 down? And I don't see even perhaps a roadmap. Someone in chat says there's loads of PSVR studios working on VR content solely. Okay, when I get, and I don't mean additive experience like GT7, which may be very impressive, I'm talking about that big next one. And I do believe, I was saying this in Jeff Grubb's tweet, he doesn't really think this is going to, he's a bit skeptical about the long-term proposition of this device. And I'm just thinking, all it takes is one game. And I'm more than Half-Life Alyx, despite the fact that it being a great game. It needs that, again, bad term, overused, killer app. But once you get that game that you're like, right, everyone needs to play this game and it's in VR and nothing else is coming close in pancake mode, that's where it'll make waves. And I just don't know when that's going to happen. I pray it does. The device is amazing. It just looks amazing, but the battery life and all of that, these are problems, but I don't care as long as you deliver the games. It's always about the games, and if anyone can do it, it's Sony. But I hope they focus on those big blockbuster games, not these smaller little demos like they said in PSVR, not these like Moss and stuff. They may be great games, but give us the big one. And if they can do that, then I will be backing this device. Right now, I want to save my money because that is quite a hefty asking price, despite the fact that comparatively it offers a lot of value. Well, yeah, you call me that. Can we call me a broke casual? But it's just like, it is a lot of money. But let's just go hit these super chats because there's a lot there. Alvin with a $5 super chat because Ace is not wasting any time dishing out. I've typed over that. Heavy portions, I imagine, of sauce. Thank you, Alvin. I've typed over your super chat as I'm pasting it onto Microsoft Word like a complete casual, like Asa says. Shabs, thank you for being a member for 16 months. Thank you so much, man. Because you're all shills. Shills for gaming. Keep doing what you do and don't let anyone else tell you otherwise. Thank you, Shabs. Shabs again with the £2 super chat. Thank you, man. He goes, give me my Sword Art Online VR style. Again, hammering home that it's all about the games. Face with a very spicy and also very generous, as always, $20 super chat. He goes, Xbox gamers, if Microsoft released a VR headset, you'll be singing a different tune. So why would people take your opinion seriously?
Absolutely not. Hell no, I would not be. I'm not into VR like that. I've said this. Now, I wouldn't, if they decide to bring VR to gamers. I'm the type of person that is like, yes, for the people who want VR, jump on it. Still not going to buy it. I mean, I would consider it if it would be something like, just like I said about the price point, if it was the right type of game, like the GTC. I mean, I'm into racers, so that does look pretty smooth, even though that like some people was putting out like fake footage. But other than that, but I would be interested. But the problem is that VR, is there more games out there available for me to keep using the peripheral? And I just don't see that. So no, even if Xbox did it, I would be singing another tune, period.
Yeah. I mean, if it had, it boils down to software. Forza Horizon, great game. If we had VR support, massively enticing. Then you got Forza Motorsport, massively enticing. First-person shooters like Xbox pretty slaps PlayStation around on that. Even Halo Infinite. I mean, graphically it's not that good, so it might be really poised to perform on VR. So maybe it's all boiling down to the software face. You might find it weird, but he says the VR connoisseur, and of course he's made his case for it. We would definitely buy it if the software's there. Flight Sim is a great one, Dutch, you mentioned. I really, really want to play that in VR. In fact, I feel like what puts me off playing it anymore and learning that horribly complicated game unless you play on easy mode, is the lack of like me playing on VR. I've got Quest, but it's all about software. So I don't know, Face. I think it's...
Unless you go into the modding community, which obviously is ASNO as well, like I can guarantee Forza Motorsport will have a modded VR version on PC, and I can guarantee there is already a modded version of VR on Flight Sim on PC.
No, so Flight Sim natively supports it on PC. This is the one studio that took community feedback and went to because Microsoft don't own Asobo, so they actually did officially put virtual reality support into it. Forza, you cannot. There is no good VR support. You can get fake screen support, but you can't sit in that car and play properly, which is a travesty. It's a travesty because it would be amazing. I'd play that forever.
Oh, I meant more the upcoming one. I'd be surprised. Because this is the first
modders haven't been able to do Forza Tech so far, so unless the new engine is doing something very differently, I'd be surprised if it does.
Is that been the sticking point in it? Obviously, you've been doing a lot of research on why it can't.
No, so, I don't research why. I go to Redmond outside Microsoft's campus with a little picket sign on my own protesting, but they just ignore me. They don't even give me lunch anymore. But I'm going to keep trying. In terms of the mod community, fortunately on the PC side of things, and this will make a big difference for people that are into that very niche scene within a niche, every Unreal game from the last decade or so will be easily moddable in the near future. There's good work happening in that space as well, so there'll be lots for me to play.
Okay. On the point of the modding community, Asa, I know PlayStation have a dedicated store on PC, but considering they have a push for PC, I think it would be frankly balmy if for PSVR 2 they don't see, if they haven't already, seriously consider PC. It's not like there's a competing thing. It's not gouging. I mean, the hardware is where they're making their money as well. Plus, they'll make it on software. PC community will latch onto it. Otherwise, they're stuck with a niche uphill battle. Why would they not limit that?
I really don't think they are making money on the hardware, for one thing. I really don't think they're making at least any significant amount of money on the hardware. What they could do, separate conversation, because we did already kind of cover the PC support for the hardware itself, but there is the matter of games as well, because there are PC headsets that offer a very similar feature set to the PlayStation VR 2. So things like Call of the Mountain, if they do get their first-party studios supporting this thing properly, even if they aren't going to bring their headset and their storefront directly onto the PC, they could bring those games to PC, and then there is money in that. So hopefully.
Yeah, hopefully. On that point, Ace, as you were talking about that, Sony have made a big investment with PSVR 2, and it'll boil down mostly, I would say even throw 90% out there on the first-party studios to really make this thing shine. This split focus, do you think that could potentially harm PlayStation in this space, or can it afford to do it because it's getting a market lead over Xbox anyway?
I hope so. I hope they invest in it enough to hurt themselves. Then I'll be getting some games out of it. So Sony have a few VR studios. They have acquired some studios that can be dedicated to virtual reality without hurting them. So Insomniac have got a dedicated virtual reality studio that pumped out 4 games for Oculus before they were acquired. So they can make games there. They've got some good second party things. So from Sony themselves, we've got Firewall Ultra coming as should be a big game when it comes out. But so much for them is pivotal on their hybrid development approach. If they can get these support studios working with the main studios, making these the first party proper flagship Pancake games have meaningful virtual reality support. So not like here's a level you can look around Lara Croft Mansion or whatever, but here's the full game in virtual reality as well. This is an alternative way to play. Then they'll be fine. Yeah. And that shouldn't hurt their development too much if they can nail it down, but we'll see.
I think, yeah, we'll see. And I really do think it needs a very concerted effort throughout first party studios to result in something that could be the breakout game if that's what Sony's strategy is, and relying on the long-term success of this device. Phase 23, Brooklyn, New York. Thank you again for another $20 super chat. Wandering Dutch, I will counter that Microsoft already raised their prices of video games to $70 and raised the prices of the series consoles in India and Japan already. I don't know what he's countering. I don't remember. What
that
do you
is correct. That was down to currency exchange and distribution costs.
Okay. I don't know what he was countering, but okay.
Japan and India.
Japan and India. I will say that expect it will happen.
Japan on initial launch was actually cheaper than the rest of the world. So I think it brought it more in line with the rest of the world.
Yeah, it is true. It is true. It just seems like, are you making enough of a loss there when you're not even selling that many in the grand scheme of things?
Yeah, I think they're already, the good thing about Japan specifically, and I think India as well, is they're probably already making a good enough, should we say, start to gain ground, because they haven't gained nowhere near enough ground to say they're competitive in that market, but yeah, they are far better than they have been since, the 360 era. They are actually tracking ahead of where 360 and Xbox One is in Japan now. So they've made big strides there. I think the constant support on software, Japanese software and Japanese devs and games and things is what's benefiting them massively. And the Series S, of course. But we know that. So yeah, but yeah, it is a good point. But it is the different factors, and every market's going to be different. We know that the rest of the world, like PlayStation, didn't increase in the US, but it increased the rest of the world. There's reasons. There's always reasons for it, but you never know.
Yeah, absolutely. Before we read the other super chats, shout out to Hoggy, very generous as always. He goes, forget all this VR stuff, play Pancake games. Here's a Hogwarts Legacy Digital Deluxe global code. Shout out to Hoggy. That is crazy. That is a lot. Well done to Hoggy, man. He's the most generous guy out there. And whoever claimed the code, do it. And if the 401+ people watching, please hit that like button. We have a lot to talk about. 108 Dragon Stevie, shout out to you, brother. He goes, thank you for the $5 super chat. He goes, me and Asa will take the financial hit for you guys. And shout out to the awesome panel. Asa, check your Twitter DMs. Check them, Asa. Gunstar with the £2 super chat goes, Dutch, will Dutch be subtitled when you upload? Why? Dutch just sounds... Oh, Dutch, your name confuses me because you're English. Yeah, Northern English. Come on, wait, Gunstar. I swear you're Northern as well. No, AJH, thank you for the £2 super. She goes, so they turned PlayStation devs into the new Lionhead. Ooh. I mean, let's not say that. Let's. Well, this is what I was alluding to, AJ. Just when I asked the question, what is that going to split focus between the studios? But hopefully, I don't think they'll end up that way. They know PlayStation's feeling the heat despite its success, mounting success against Xbox. Microsoft are really taking things seriously. So, and they won't forsake their bread and butter, which is the AAA stuff. But we'll see. Carlos Alvarado, thank you so much for the $2 super chat. Goes, PS needs bangers for VR. 79 climbing sim ain't it. Ooh, sauce. But I think there's truth there. Like, you want to see that big title, K-Mega. You're not going to see, like, 79 is like, that's your best looking title, the best playing title, and then it's 79. It's like, okay, I'll wait. $600. Am I going to really pay that.
No, I agree.
Yeah. It's just it needs something big. It needs the Half-Life Alex, and then we'll be like, all right.
Despite the fact that announced that Half-Life Alex is coming to PSVR.
Is it?
I heard a rumor that it was, but
rumors.
Yeah, there's rumors of this. Yeah.
I mean, Call of the Mountain in particular.
That would make sense. Like, no other market has it other than Steam.
It would make sense. You'd think from Valve as well, because they obviously want to sell that game, and it's not a big enough audience on the PC for it. Obviously, they want to sell things into their own ecosystem as well. But Valve have always worked with the console providers to bring their games across as well. So hopefully, Alex will come to it. I don't think there is any such thing as a singular killer app that will sell people on a device that expensive. So it needs consistency. It needs a lot of games. There are already good things to play in VR, but a killer app is a myth. So. Don't wait for one. That's just not a thing that can happen. The Call of the Mountain game. Happen. Well, Half-Life Alex was a killer app. Walking Dead Saints and Sinners. Saints and Sinners is a killer app. Nobody's playing it. It's so good. It's so good.
But you know what I mean when I say the killer app.
I
like
do,
the golden
and that's what I'm saying. It's a myth. It won't come. Nobody will ever be satisfied by a singular game.
No, that's not the. Come on, you know, I mean, the big game. There's always the big game. Like the Halo made this new bulky Xbox stupid entrant into the thing viable. Like there is, if you believe in the vision of VR, if you believe in the vision of this tech, then absolutely you have to believe in a killer app. You have to believe. That means you think this tech is not ready.
No, I think there's not a singular app that will sell it.
I disagree with that. I disagree with that.
The reason I was going to say I slightly agree with Asa is because it was once a reason to buy a console. So you like originally with the PlayStation or originally with the Xbox, and we're talking the original Xboxes and original PlayStations, the entire point was given that killer app to entice you to buy this console. Now these consoles have been out for multiple generations. You do not need a killer app to buy a console or a bit of equipment. And this is the second iteration of PlayStation VR. Now, the only downfall with PlayStation VR this time around is that there isn't backwards compatibility, which I think is a massive oversight, considering those games can absolutely run on PlayStation VR. Two, it's just implementing the DualSense controller support, which is different compared to the ones that they used to have, the glowing ones. That is the only difference, and I think that could be done, and I think they should iterate bringing some of those older apps back over, but I agree that there isn't one specific app these days that entices you to buy a console. It's more of a conglomerate of things. It's the ecosystem, it's the backlog, it's the friend base you've got, it's the equipment you've already got. There's so many factors.
And the price of entry is 1,200. Like what nirvana of an app would get you to spend that?
They will do it. They will do it. I guarantee you, the masses. If you delivered the next Halo with this VR experience, for instance, I'm giving you a concept that really takes, because like Colin Moriarty said, we've hit our ceiling now as far as games conceptually are concerned. Third-person shooters, first-person shooters. He doesn't expect anything massive changes there, and I disagree with that. You have a VR experience where you're literally in this world. You reload the guns properly. You're in this game. Physics are there. The visual fidelity is there.
Half-Life Alex already happened.
Setting. No, man. Half-Life Alex is not like that.
Yeah,
like, even if
you mentioned Halo. Like, if you're talking about a killer app, you're talking about a beloved IP. Because you mentioned Halo is why I've gone to Half-Life. Not because I think it's the one pristine VR game, but because you mentioned a big IP playing it in a completely new way. And if Half-Life Alex is not a big enough IP, I don't know what you're looking for.
And VR is doomed. When we say Ready Player One, when we talk about full immersion, we don't want to see people floating hands. You want to see a fully comprehensive game that changes the way you play a FPS so that it makes it silly. And don't say we're here now, because I know you're going to say we're here now. It makes it silly to play a pancake version of FPS.
But I
believe
really
in
are
that.
there.
I believe in that.
Okay.
And it could
Keyboard
happen.
and mouse.
It could happen.
Keyboard and mouse, controller, point and shoot a gun. It's completely not the same experience. I don't understand what you're talking about. I really don't.
No, I mean you're making an argument for that in the future of gaming video. Like these things, we have these incredible I'm trying to find my control. These incredibly detailed and more increasingly intricate, detailed worlds, and we are relegated to this to interact with our worlds. Press A, this to shoot, and VR can change that, and I believe in that. And this is such a basic fork and knife to utensil to
I don't disagree with like the fundamental part of your argument, apart from the idea that there can be a singular killer app that delivers this, because most of the things that you're asking for have been delivered and were not considered killer apps. Like,
okay, so let me
reloading a gun. Yeah, you can do that in anything.
Properly, yeah, you can do it but fully, all of that. Reload a gun, make it feel good, visually astounding, incredible game, the AR, everything. That's what I'm talking about. Not these little demo games, not little additive VR experience.
You're just describing Half-Life Alyx over and over again.
Okay, so somebody in the chat was asking me a question, and it just came to my mind, a game that I would definitely consider PlayStation VR if they decided to bring back Fight Night. And then like,
I'm not being in your house. Imagine like a grandma walks past, bam.
I'm just saying though, like that would bring some attention. I don't know if that would be that quote unquote killer app, but that would be a game that would get my attention, especially if it looks as stunning as what people would be anticipating that the next Fight Night, if EA decided to bring it back, would look. And you put that type of game, and that's the perfect immersion. You have your creative player fighting Ali or Frazier or whatever. That would be insane, man. That would be insane.
Rounds with a headset on. There's no chance.
No chance. Okay, well, I'm just saying. So I don't know, man. So to me, it seems like that it seems people was I forgot who it was that made a super chat that was saying that I needed to say the word peripheral correctly. So
no, that's coming. Yeah. Gunstar's next super chat. I don't know what did you say? How did you pronounce peripheral for easy?
I said peripheral. So I'm country. So man, let me just let me be country. If I don't pronunciate a word properly, then just say it.
108 Dragon with the $2 super because he might be country.
Let me be country. I'm a country boy, so sometimes I'm going to mess up on a word. But I think that would be an interesting app, and I think that would be something that would get people to be like, hey, that not only looks fantastic, but I could jump around and play the new Fight Night with VR. I think that would garner some attention. I don't know if that would be that so quote unquote killer app, but I think that would be something that would bring more traction.
Well, funny story. Me and Asa played Creed, the boxing game in which you play PvP, and you run forward by doing this, and go forward and go back like this. And Asa punched his wall because I kept turning around. He's like, Gaz, don't do that. Stop turning around. And then he punched the wall. You fixed that wall yet, Asa? Yeah. Has it still got dead?
The marks are still there, and they'll stay there forever because I like them.
Phase 23, Brooklyn, New York. Thank you for the $20 super chat again. He goes, Sony release this year. That's a lot of money, man. PSVR 2, Horizon Call of the Mountain, DualSense Edge, and coming MLB The Show before Xbox released any games yet. Source. What do you mean? Hi-Fi Rush just shat on PlayStation's games this year. That's that 89 matter. That got released. Shadow dropped. Just completed it. Great game, by the way. Great game. What are you talking about, Face? Don't spend that much money to murk yourself. That's a lot of money. You're like, come on, man. The stuff, Sean, thank you so much for the £2 super chat. Because imagine Hellblade 2 VR. I just freaked myself out. Well, not all games can just translate into that. Third person with VR. Like,
you can literally play the first Hellblade in virtual reality and it works just fine. So this is I know we're not going to talk about VR much more because we've done quite a lot and people don't want to. But you'd be surprised at what does and doesn't work in VR. People have this impression that it's just first-person experiences. You need to be sitting in a car or shooting a gun, but actually things like tactics games, things like third-person games, things like diorama kind of isometric games are a lot better than you might realize until you've tried it. And Hellblade, Hellblade is officially supported, like Team Ninja. I've forgotten what they're called. Is it Team Ninja or Ninja Theory? Ninja Theory.
Team Ninja. No.
Ninja Theory.
Yeah,
Ninja Theory officially released Hellblade VR on the PC before they were required, when they were still allowed to do cool things.
Of course. Well, okay, with enough VR talk, and shout out to 400 people in the chat. Let's go to quite a few topics here. Next one, very quickly. Returnal comes to PC, and this port looks very impressive. Probably the best port from Sony on PC, and it just looks great. Returnal is a great game. Love that game. Probably one of the best so far this gen for me, or especially on PlayStation. But the PC one it has pissed people off. The definitive edition is here on PC, and it's doing some. Issa, I don't know if you've checked this out. Like the ray trace reflection, the particle effects, all of this stuff makes the PS5 version look like okay. Like that's a big difference. And I feel like, and this is where K-Mega, I was going to try and weave in your point about mid-gen consoles into this conversation, because I was like, because I know Blaze 4K, he's a big PlayStation guy, still is, but now he's moved to PC. Strictly Gaming, he's moved to PC as well. And these guys are like, nah, man, it's all about PC. And people are pissed now. So I'm starting to notice that console guys are pissed off at the performance of these next-gen consoles. It's not really, and the PC side of things, despite the fact that 4090 is like ridiculous, 4080s cost $1,200, man. What the Returnal makes me think that kind of stuff, people will vocally pissed off PlayStation guys, as they normally would be. But on that point, Dutch, do you think that these consoles are, do you feel like you're getting your money's worth from these consoles yet? Are they performing, particularly the Xbox Series X, the world's most powerful console? Is it performing in the levels that you think it should be, or you expected it to?
I don't think it's anything to do with the hardware. I think they just haven't made the most of what's available as yet. I think that's something that we'll start to see more over the next 2 to 3 years. I don't think we've seen anything close to what these consoles are capable of yet. But I would also, on a technical front, I don't understand why Sony fans are getting angry at Returnal looking and playing better on PC, especially on these people playing on like 4090s and things, where they literally wipe the floor with every game. The 4090 destroys everything. Like they've got Forza Horizon running in 8K at 120 frames and above, with everything switched on, including ray tracing. Like, it's going to be better on a platform that has a ceiling that is so much higher. Yeah. Like, we're talking about literal RDNA 3. We're talking about like DLSS 3.0. We're talking like Zen 4 processors. We're talking 24 to 36 gig graphics cards. These are massive differences compared to the consoles we're playing on. It's not to say these consoles are slouches, however, because these consoles I still think on a when you're talking about proprietary basis, when they're developing games specifically with these consoles in mind, I think we haven't seen anywhere near what they're capable of yet. But on that note, of course, they're always going to look and eventually run better on PC. They always are going to, because it has a much higher ceiling of capability. It just depends. It all boils down to how the developer makes use of that. If, in Sony's perspective, these games come out on PlayStation first, and then they've got a lot of time to optimize the version for the PC, then there's going to be an even larger gap on difference of quality, because they're focusing on that PC port primarily and not just focusing on the port as a whole. If Xbox did the same thing and didn't drop their games day one, day and date on everything, and they were like, okay, it comes to console first and then PC, you'd see a much larger gap in quality on the PC games for Xbox as well. Not to say that the games aren't already outstanding on PC, because the ports from Xbox on PC as well are also outstanding. As I mentioned, there was Forza Horizon 5, running ridiculously on a 4090 with ray tracing on, and you see games like Gears of War looking absolutely phenomenal on PC as well. So yeah, these consoles are miles off from being completely maximized, absolutely miles away, and that's a good thing. It's a good thing for us. But I don't think right now PlayStation or Xbox haven't seen the best of what these consoles can do yet, which is a positive thing. I think we've both very much got a lot more to look forward to on both fronts. A lot much more.
Okay.
I think Unreal particularly is going to be the outlier this gen. Unreal, anything on Unreal is going to look phenomenal.
Yeah, I agree with you. So I put that in my future of gaming video. And hopefully that's why I'm so hyped for Halo running on that. K-Mega, do you share Dutch's optimism? Because he makes it sound like we're not scratching the surface of the power of these consoles.
No, absolutely not. I've even said, even on my podcast, and on other podcasts, and I'm going to say it on this one, that I feel like this is going to be about the same amount of length with this generation as the 360 and the PlayStation 3. I think it's going to be about that long.
Yeah.
We
7 years? Yeah,
7, maybe a little bit more, because of the fact that, like you said, like Dutch said, we haven't even cracked the surface yet. I mean, we're still having games that's being promoted on the older hardware. So and we're just now starting to get games that are really going to start really defining themselves and putting and showing the true power of both the PlayStation and the Xbox. So I think that it's a smart investment if you're a person that doesn't have, let's say that you have a PlayStation first and you may consider getting an Xbox later. Then wait for if they do bring something later, or of course, I think a lot of people get the entry level with the S, but I mean, for me, this is the reason why I went ahead and I did this. I'd say because of the PlayStation games. I'm with this bad boy right here, this big son of a gun right here.
I'm getting nervous the way you're holding that thing.
I am. Well, this thing right here, man. This is why
I didn't even de-stat your fingers. You picked that up.
Yes.
There it goes.
Yes.
$1,200 down the toilet.
Yeah, I'll take it back. I got a warranty on it. But the thing for me is that it's the situation is that, like, I had Spider-Man. I got a 2070 right now, and I seen how great that looked on when I was playing Spider-Man, when I was playing God of War. Compared to when I played God of War on the PlayStation 4, and I'm like, good God, this is leaps and bounds. And just what these kind, and I don't have the 90, I have the 80. But the thing to me is just that, I mean, I can see why people would decide to not could leave their consoles behind and just go with PC if they're going to go ahead and invest in that. I mean, I'm already invested. I'm an Xbox guy, so I'm a console guy. So I'm going to still maintain my console. But for me, I'm looking at it from the strategy of with these cards and just the ability of just seeing how these games look and how well Nexus is doing on converting these games from the PlayStation to the PC. It's a no-brainer if you do have a gaming PC or interested in it, because games are cheaper. They depreciate a lot faster. Like Returnal right now on CD keys is only $40. So, and I mean, it just came out this week. So that's the thing for me that has made me kind of switch from saying, well, I'm going to still want to support PlayStation. I'm just going to do it a different way. I'm not going to invest into the console. I'm just going to go ahead and invest a little bit more money and be future-proof it by going with PC and just playing my games on my PlayStation games on PC. That's my thing.
No, that's fair enough. I think that's what Blaze and Strictly were aiming at that point, and now they're slowly kind of weaned into that as their main source of gaming. Danny Passion Official, thank you for the $2 super chat. Goes, I bought Dead Space on Steam due to how good it looks on PC. So yeah, no, absolutely. A lot of people are doing that. I do agree with you, Dutch and K-Mega, that it really we aren't. The thing I'm leading on is we haven't touched the power of these consoles because of stupid last gen. I'm hoping this from this year onwards, it's going to be
to kind of go on to that as well. The perfect thing about Hogwarts that has just released now is they've done it the right way when releasing a previous gen version.
Yes.
They've got the next gen versions out, which have been relatively bug free across the board. Like I've now 100%ed everything on that game. They've got it out pretty much bug free. I had a couple of little things here and there, but traditional open world bugs, as you can imagine, like AIs like randomly spawning into a wall and stuff like that. Like that's type of stuff that you can't predict and can't reproduce when you're doing QA sometimes. But in terms of the way that they actually got that game out, focusing on the current gen first, getting the current gen games out first and foremost, then getting the last gen games out a month or two later, then getting the Switch version out in July. Like they're saying, right, let's get the best version good, ready, out the door first. We'll then work on the previous gen and optimize that one, and then we'll get Switch sorted. That's the best. That's the way Cyberpunk should have done it.
Well, on that point, you're right. Absolutely agree with you there. And the game is selling like mad already. And it doesn't even have last gen versions. But I reckon the last gen version is going to run like shit. I have this because the current gen version, the pop in even on performance mode is pretty considerable. We had Rand saying this is pretty bad, but the game runs fine. I have a feeling that game, because the game is pretty cool. It's really beautiful, good looking game. I have a suspicion it's going to run like shit on current gen. And you know what? They are so clever because the reviews don't show it. The reviews have done really well. Sales have done well. Goodwill's built up. People are talking about it. And the current gen versions could be absolutely shite. And it'll be interesting to see if that's the case.
I was going to say, I think on the previous gen version, for them, it's just reducing the quality of the assets, reducing the resolution overhaul. Like, it's not going to be 4K. It's not going to have ray tracing. It's not going to have all of these options. I think even the One X and the PS4 Pro will have very negligible differences compared to the base consoles. I think they'll just get a workable version on both that looks good enough, capped at 30, done. I don't think they're going to go like overboard with it. I think they're just going to get rid of some of the lighting. The lighting in this game is phenomenal, by the way, like across the board, and it needs to be. But
it's beautiful.
Some of that stuff's going to get paid right down. It's going to work. It's going to work fine, but it is going to be locked 30. It's Nintendo Switch, so that I'm going to. How is that game going to run?
Yeah, and also remember, like, when this statement that I can't stand when people say like the older hardware holds back the new hardware. All you got to go back and see on the 360. There was Forza Horizon 2 on there. There was Titanfall that was on the 360. There was Battlefield 4. There was Modern Warfare. Well, it was Ghost. COD Ghost on there. And every game that I just mentioned, when you looked at the game that came on the Xbox One or the PlayStation 4, they performed and had more enhancements than on their predecessors. So why are people still trying to make this notion like Dutch said, like the games are going to, for the people that's playing on the older hardware, it's going to be awful. But for the games that's going to be made primarily for the new gen, or the current gen, they're going to be fine. We're going to see the reason why we've invested into these consoles, into these newer consoles.
Yeah, I'm just saying say goodbye to old gen, because that split focus, dev time, and dedication is just holding things back. Next gen or current gen has been stalled by a period of 2 years, in my opinion. I've always hated cross gen. I hated it last gen. I despise it this gen, and it's like delayed my current gen. So hopefully we get away from that. Before we move on to the next topic, Asa, do you have anything to add on Returnal? I know you weren't a fan because you didn't think this was a roguelike game that was great compared to some of its contemporaries, but what's the PC version? Is it going to entice you?
No, I'm not going to play Returnal again. I have Returnal on the PlayStation. I very much like it mechanically. Like, it feels really good to play, but I don't like the roguelike structure of it. So I'm not going to dip back in on the PC just to go through that again. Each run just takes too long and gives you too little reward for going through it. So I get that people love that game and I can see why, but I'm not going to play it. The conversations that you just had there, so pro versions of the consoles and all of that stuff, we've obviously touched on it a few times before. My feeling, based on no particular insider information or anything like that, is that we won't see a PlayStation Pro. The Pro consoles, the previous set, so the PlayStation 4 Pro and the Xbox One X, those were driven by environment, like, and I don't mean like the climate or something like that. I mean, a lot of people had 4K TVs, and the enhancement that those consoles brought was they were very specifically designed. It's a little bit different in the Xbox camp because they had their market position versus Sony to consider, and their like power differential that they were very desperate to claw back. But Sony's was very specifically, people have got 4K TVs and we want to support them better, and that's the only reason that thing existed. It was a very conservative update. There is no equivalent at the moment. There is no like, now people are embracing this new technology, let's deliver a new system that can do that. And the closest thing would be like ray tracing or something like that, but that's out of the cost range entirely at the moment. So I think the next PlayStation console will probably be the PlayStation 6 sometime down the line. I actually don't necessarily think that Xbox will follow the same path. I think Xbox moved away from they didn't really deliver it in the same way as a Pro. They've just shunted off of the track of generations in general. So if Xbox wanted to release new hardware, then they could, because it would work with the same games. So it would just be more powerful. So if they wanted to, they could do a 4 or 5 year update. I'm not saying they definitely will, but they're more likely to than Sony. I think at one point in time, that was the model that they were looking towards. But again, market conditions haven't necessarily played in that direction. And this has been a very slow start to this generation. So I wouldn't say, like, I'm not saying it's likely or anything like that Xbox will do it, but I think they're more likely to than Sony, just because it fits their model better than Sony. Sony aren't as good at the cross-generation thing, or the generational migration, as it were. What else did you talk about? I don't know. I got lost. So that'll do. I'm sure
I mean, that was pretty much it. That was it. And we're talking about that. Pretty much Returnal and mid-gen stuff. Next topic, Redfall. This game, just very recently, before we went on live, Arcane confirmed that there will be no tethering in Redfall multiplayer. You'll be able to play 4-player open world wherever they like. And I thought, wait, hold on. How do they manage that? That's pretty significant when Halo Infinite has a tether, which is pretty generous in my opinion. And Gotham Knights basically shat the bed considering co-op. They designed this game and turned out to be a mess. Aces, do you want to lead it? Like, that's pretty significant. No, how do they manage this magic?
So I'm not well positioned to answer because I haven't looked at this article. I didn't know they said this. So it's not tethered. Did they mention that? Did they use this as justification for its online requirement? Because it would be decent justification for that. Well, co-op is online by default anyway. Are they implying that they are doing some server side hosting for AI in the city and things like that, or are they just saying it doesn't need tethering?
No, the information is very, very basic. I'll come confirming there is no tethering, and I don't know what. This is coming from
I will say that I hope the world is still adequately dynamic, because the thing that makes it challenging more so is having, like, if you don't have a server powering this thing, then somebody's console is hosting that, is hosting all of the AI, is hosting all of the dynamic geometry and scenery and things like that. So I hope that they haven't had to compromise just to let people free roam.
That I was going to say, like, what's the dynamism there in the game world and physics and stuff? Like, is that pared down? Is it really? That's what I mean. It doesn't look it. The gameplay looked amazing, but it's pretty impressive. I don't know if you want anything to add to that, gents.
Yeah, I mean, it's obviously it's awesome to hear that it's untethered. Again, how well that works, we'll see when we get to play it, or how well it reviews and things like that. But I tend to ignore the reviews and things and just play it for myself and see what it's all about. The only sticking point for me is that I am far more interested in playing Jedi Survivor, which releases 3 or 4 days beforehand, than I am Redfall still. And I'll be playing that until I finish it, and then I'll jump into Redfall. So,
there's too many games.
I can't wait. Too many games. I can't wait for both of them. But I think having no tethering is awesome. I think the benefit I think Redfall will have, as much as it's their biggest and most ambitious world that they've ever created. I think the world that they've created is probably smaller than that of Halo anyway. So I think in terms of the scale, in terms of how far away you can get in relation to the Halo world, is a bit different.
Yeah.
So it could be that the distance between the characters isn't that it's going to compromise anything anyway, and that it would just kick off again. I don't know what they're doing in the background, as Asa mentioned, how dynamic the AI is going to be and things like that. Whether or not they've made use of Microsoft Azure cloud technology in order to power some of the AI stuff and the background stuff, I don't know. If they have, that could resolve a lot of the issues there with regards to kind of storing information or streaming information in, which is what could be why it needs online for playing the game.
I feel like they would have said it, been a little bit more vocal of that, or they haven't, because the justification for the single player online requirement hasn't really come out as such. So if that's the case, it might be the case.
Going into, so specifically on Microsoft's side going forward, and this is the thing a lot of people probably have to get used to, because of course we know the physical media people will hate it. And I understand they just want physical and they don't want to rely on the internet and things like that. But we are in a highly digital age now. We're going to get to the point where the vast majority of thing is AI powered, is going to be cloud powered. There's going to be a lot of that stuff going on, and it's only going to get better the better the technology gets. So they have these concerns based on today's technology, not on what it's going to be like in 10 years' time. 15 years time, which is exactly what the route Microsoft is taking. So when you're talking about the online requirement. I think that's because they're looking more to a future where the cloud processing for streaming assets in and things like that is going to alleviate a lot of the pressure from actually having the game running natively on the console, where it's constrained. It's just a singular file there. And a lot of the assets like Microsoft Flight Sim, which has 5 to 8 petabits of information stored in the cloud in order to stream in remotely. Like, there's a reason for that. You would never be able to get the entire planet in a 1-to-1 scale like you do in Flight Sim on a disk. It would never work.
Yeah.
It would be impossible. Absolutely. So going forward, in order to alleviate the pressures of these games, it's going to have cloud or Azure powered technology. That's going to only better these.
Not to say that that's the case with Redfall, but that is the general strategy going forward. But on that point, though, Redfall was particularly getting some heat yesterday. VGC published this news, and I tweeted, I'm like, what's going on with game preservation? Because this single player online only environment, there was some news that, or not news, was wrong, debunked, actually contributed by Bethesda's. They've acknowledged that. And they say there was unclear Redfall information shared on Bethesda customer support, which made people think that the physical version of the game didn't actually ship with any discs. And Gamefly came and changed that. Someone made a video on it, just like that. I'm like, mate, how did you make a video so quick? It was just, we know how they made a video quick. It's just reaction video and just spit on camera. But it didn't age well. But generally, I think the game preservation point is still important. And there are vocal, maybe perhaps a minority of people who still feel that's important. Phil Spencer did say game preservation is a thing. So like all of that soundbite. A lot of people said, well, game preservation doesn't mean necessarily physical, Asa. They say that digital game preservation is important as well. What do you say to that?
The Redfall isn't offering that. So game preservation is a complicated one. Phil Spencer spoke a lot about it with regard to the back compat program, and Xbox do very, very well with back compat and with bringing their old games forwards for people to play on the Xbox system. The people that want true game preservation, and I don't particularly count myself among them, the people that want real game preservation want to know that they'll be able to play these games if Microsoft leave the planet. And Redfall is not one of those games. And it's like, I understand that perspective. I understand the people that want that, and there are a lot of people very dedicated to it who are building like big archives of ROMs so that you can always play these pieces of art that were delivered unto the world from passionate people. And I get that. I understand the appeal. For me, I've always said that game preservation is not, I don't particularly care. It takes a backseat to innovation. So if you're making a game that requires an online connection because you are using that online connection to do something to make that game better, I will always be in favor of that. If you are doing 100%. It because you want control over distribution of that game for some reason, like if you do not have a legitimate reason that benefits me as a player, then no, you should be focused on game preservation, especially if you've come out publicly and said that it's important to you. Redfall and the whole disc issue, which is still unclear, by the way. There's still misinformation going around on that one. Redfall was like, it's already got its online requirement, so the disc thing is almost moot apart from resale value. That's the only thing that comes into play for the having a disc or not having a disc. And I say there's still misinformation in the air because the latest, like the clarified information that I've seen is that it is a disc, and the disc unlocks the game on Xbox and PC, like the Play Anywhere code. That's not practical. Like there's a logical step missing. They have not got a disc that you can activate a code, and then because then what do you do with the disc? You sell it, and somebody else activates it, and you sell it to someone else. A game for like giving people this game by letting the disc pass around. Like there's something missing. Go on.
I think there's a little bit of not misinformation, but a misunderstanding going around. I think they relate to the code that unlocks the bonus edition, the higher up edition, and all the stuff that comes with that. So you get the disc that has the original game on, and the code that they give you is for the additional content that comes with it. I think that is the thing that people are still sticking on. So of course the content is a code. So the deluxe edition or whatever it is, that is a code. But the game in itself is a disc. And I've mentioned, of course, PC there isn't a disc for PC. There is zero disc for PC because, of course, who has a CD-ROM in their PC these days? Like, no gaming laptops contain them anymore. Like, very few people buy CD-ROMs or DVD-ROMs for PC these days, or Blu-ray players for PC. Like, it's pretty much all digital media there now. I think everybody can pretty much guarantee that on PC, it's pretty much all digital media.
Right.
So there's no requirement for it there, which is why there's no kind of backlash with PC players.
Yeah,
they've been digital for a long time.
They've been digital for ages. Yeah.
Yeah.
Here's the future. I feel like it's not gonna. There's a lot of like points on that. A lot of it's console fan hating. I just feel like the sound bites need to be like reined in a bit. But it really practically makes no difference. I'm with but all you gents, I assume, presumably as well, K-Mega. And
I totally agree. I think it's ridiculous when people they don't own a CD player, they don't own an A-track, and then they listen to their music through Amazon or Spotify.
Yeah, which is the future, man.
You know what I'm saying? Right. Which to me is kind of like, well, if you care about preservation on digital, on physical copies, then you should have physical copies on everything. But that's not the case, and so I think it's kind of like just some crazy like console war politics from some people. I know that there's some people that really actually are genuinely care about it, and they buy physical copies. But I mean, what is a physical disc these days? I mean, they're nothing. They shut that game down to where you can't play it online. Then it's nothing but a coaster. So I can understand and that's why I definitely support emulation, things like that. But going forward, I'm with Asa on this one. Like, I mean, I want to see more innovation. I want to see where they can take gaming 100% before I die. You know what I mean? So I've been there, done that with 8. That's why I kind of get sick of seeing 8-bit games, because I've been there, done that. I want to see more. I want to see games be pumped out, look the best that they can, all that. But Redfall is one of those games for me that wasn't on my radar so much. But the more and more I see it, the more and more I hear about it, the more I'm like, okay. Yeah. And on top of that, I've been playing a lot of single player games here lately, so it's time for me to get back onto my multiplayer games anyway. So yeah, I'm looking forward to Redfall. And Jedi Survivor too, but yeah, I'm gonna play Redfall too.
Yeah, I think a lot of people will, and I do agree with you. The advent of tech and Dutch, like you were mentioning, AI, Microsoft are investing heavily in AI for a reason. The world is heading that way. That's how we will realize the true vision of games. AI, which is, we all talked about how woefully underdeveloped it is in gaming. Cloud will change that, despite the power of the cloud curse being hanging over the console space because of Crackdown. But we'll see.
Yeah.
Next topic, here it is, ladies and gentlemen. Source. This one was doing the rounds like wildfire, and media's reporting on it, and it's pretty saucy because apparently Phil Spencer and Xbox lied. They are liars, and you should never trust them, and all kinds of stuff. Like it was pretty bad. By the way, before I do that, Udani, thank you for the super chat or super chat, whatever. Happy go live day, bisses. I've assume that means bitches, but yeah, thank you. And Daddy, thank you again for the $5 super, because the last time I bought a physical game was when I had a PS5. The reason was the one and done problem with PS5 games. Source, Daddy, source. But fine, fair enough. But this one, Xbox Game Pass cannibalizes sales, and Microsoft in this regulatory beef. Things are getting really spicy. They said 8 months ago it's going to look like it's going to fail, then it's not going to fail, then it's going to go up, and then all the dirty laundry is coming out, and Microsoft seemingly, gents, is putting its foot in its mouth, because it said something before that. I will read out the quotes. Microsoft submitted that its internal analysis showed a redacted percentage decline in base game sales 12 months following their addition on Game Pass. This runs counter to claims from Phil Spencer that he made in 2018. And when he said the opposite, he said Game Pass boosts sales rather than undermines them. And this is what Phil Spencer's quote is. Dutch, I see you. No, I want to Cole here. Get ready, bro. I want to hear your points on this because one they're saying this is what he said. When you put a game like Forza Horizon 4 on Game Pass, you instantly have more players for the game, which is actually leading to more sales of the game. Spencer said, you say, well, isn't everyone just going to subscribe for $10 and play this thing? No. Gamers find things to play based on what everybody else is playing. And elsewhere in the CMA's report, Dutch says, I'm sorry, man. You gotta look at Dutch's energy, man. Unless if you're gonna come as hot as he's ready. But I don't know what he's gonna say. But CMA's report also says that Activision, the company they're looking to buy, took a dim view itself on putting games on the subscription service, saying it severely cannibalizes buy-to-play sales, particularly in the case of newer releases. Eurogamer did reach out to Microsoft and they gave some complete fluff answer that didn't really seem to even tackle the question. I was like, what did you know what they asked? But Dutch, what is going on? Is it the end of Game Pass? Is it cannibalizing sales? Activision don't want their games on Game Pass. Microsoft is forcing them. What is going on? Was Colin Moriarty right? Wingardium Leviosa. Go for it.
Wingardium Leviosa. First of all, I agree in that fluff piece that Microsoft released was absolutely weird. It just had absolutely it wasn't anything to do with the question that was asked. Like, it had nothing. It was just like Game Pass provides places to what? Like, shut up.
Don't get it. I'm looking at it now.
Nonsense.
Yeah. Can I just quickly read it? We focused on helping game creators of all sizes maximize the financial value through Game Pass. Each game is unique, so we'll work closely with creators to build a custom program. Blah blah blah. What the fuck are you talking about? But anyway, go for it.
Yeah. Aside from that weird response to the question, no, the original article was written in a method that was leading people to intentionally misinterpret it. They are two entirely different phrases from entirely different parts of the CMA report that were not interlinked. So you had a phrase from Phil Spencer that said that game sales declined following 12 months from being on Game Pass. So if a game is on Game Pass for 12 months, left the service because they don't stay on there for longer than 12 months, game sales then decline. That would suggest that game sales are actually much higher whilst being in the service than they are off the service. Not what they're trying to allude to.
Right there.
Would say that the game in itself has a decline whilst on Game Pass. That's not what it's saying. They said there is a redacted amount of analysis that shows that the games following 12 months on Game Pass show a decline. They then have a separate statement from further on in the CMA's report that states that Activision's interpretation of where the market is that the game sales of games that are in any subscription service, not just it does say sub-services, doesn't just say
multi-game subscription. Yeah, that's the word. Yeah,
any multi-game service would be cannibalized, and that was their perspective. That was
severely
not
cannibalized.
Statement. Yeah, that was their perspective on what the market would be. But we have to say, when have we seen Activision's games date and date in any service?
So you're saying they don't know what they're talking about because they haven't actually experienced
it.
They
don't have they didn't when they made these assumptions, when they made these perspectives, and everyone's right to have these perspectives if they haven't had something in the service in order to test the theory out, whether it be big or small. And we've seen specifically from indie devs and slightly larger devs with the likes of Dirt 5, etc., that have went into Game Pass. They've noticed a sales boost being in Game Pass as opposed to separate. And that boils down to the fact that people know, specifically from third-party front, that these games are never staying in the service forever. They know that. So when they enjoy a game, they want to buy that game anyway because they want to keep hold of it. I think that is it's a different mentality to have, but I'm exactly the same.
After the deal?
Yeah. And I think
after the deal?
Activision, after the deal, I think they don't have to concern themselves with that because it's not their money they're losing.
Right.
So Microsoft loses the money, it's fine.
Yeah.
It's Microsoft's pocket at the end of the day. Like, once they've been bought, Activision do not have to worry about the financial side. That's not a problem. Right now, I completely understand as to why originally that statement was, and this was alluding to the fact that when Microsoft was talking to Activision and had those things, that's why Microsoft came out with that statement saying we spoke to Activision, and their perspective on this industry was that they believed game sales, customer to the
buy to play sales.
Yeah, the player sales would be severely cannibalized by going on any multi-game subscription service, and that was their perspective when they originally spoke to Activision. That Microsoft come out with that statement talking about what Activision's perspective was on subscription services, and that's a fair it's a fair point to have for anybody.
Absolutely,
anyone's going to have that concern, but then it's like I mentioned this. It's countered by the likes of Sega, who are supremely happy with how game sales have worked and player engagement has been since all of their games have went on the service, which is why they've continued to implement it. We've had multiple indie devs and distribution companies put multiple indie games on there because they notice a massive increase, 4 to 8 times increase in sales, and players as well on their games substantially increase just being in Game Pass. No, you don't expect any game outside of a few outliers, i.e. Call of Duty, Minecraft, GTA, which still sells millions every month for some reason. I don't know why. I don't think anybody will understand. Yeah. But outside of those, traditional game sales will naturally drop off after 12 months anyway. Like, I don't know any game that's going to continue to sell an increase in sales beyond in the initial 12 months. By that point, of course, it's going to have a natural decline. Yeah. So of course it's going to drop off. So I think it's a bit of a weird one to see, but then it was even more funny, in my opinion, to see people look at this article and say Microsoft says that it severely cannibalizes. Microsoft did not say anything. Microsoft did not say
it was ABK. Well, Activision.
Yeah, but even then, Microsoft did not say themselves that Game Pass or subservices cannibalize sales. They didn't say that, but everybody ran with that, which is just, this is when reading comprehension comes into play.
Eurogamer did it, Dutch, and everyone did it.
They've done it again. They did it again today with another article. They intentionally misled, and you know that because this is
I'm going to come into that.
Yeah.
I'm coming to that.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm not going to bring that up now because we'll get to that. But they've done it again today with a misleading article. And they're doing it again. Of course they're going to do it. You know why they're going to do it? Because clicks. Because unlike the likes of Seasoned Gaming, unlike the likes of your awesome website, you don't have advertisements on there. You don't have a funding monetarily wise where every click matters. These guys are doing this because it's going to get
no one clicks on our website. We need more ads.
So of course, the more controversy, the better. When you put misleading things in, they know what they did because they did stipulate it was 2 separate phrases. Further on in the report, Microsoft said that Activision's perspective was, but people didn't read that. People didn't read the article. People read what they wanted to read, which was that Microsoft thinks it cannibalizes sales.
Yeah. To be honest, I knew all of this, but I didn't say anything on social media because I wanted you to be difficult. But Asa hopefully has a counter to that before I go up to UK, because I want to use to talk to you about something else.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, of course it does, to a degree. So Game Pass, there are going to be really good examples where it's used as a very effective marketing tool. So what Microsoft are getting at when they talk about people want to play what people are playing, and Game Pass is a very effective tool for that. So there are certain games that land on Game Pass that they would have a very small marketing presence. People wouldn't really necessarily be aware of these games if they weren't on that subscription service. And these kind of things benefit from word of mouth, and they sell across other platforms. And we've heard many examples of this happening. At the same time, it is absolutely common sense that less people are going to buy a game if they've got access to it on a subscription service. And it's not, you only have to look at what every major publisher is doing to be able to appreciate that this is happening. Like if going on a subscription service did not reduce the amount of sales of your game, everybody would do it. It would just be common sense. There would be no downside to it. But I'm sitting here right now, all right? Star Wars Jedi Survivors, whatever it's called, is coming out soon. Dead Space just came out. I would have bought both of those games, but I've got them on a subscription service. I'm not going to buy them. And that's very anecdotal. I am one person. And there are people out there that will say, Personally, I play games on Game Pass, and if I like them, I go and buy them. You are the minority if you do that. Most people just want the experience. They just want to go and play that game. And again, touching on the whole game preservation thing, like ownership as a concept is a weird one. Some people care about it, some people don't. As I say, I'm not particularly into that. I don't really care. I just want the experience. I want to go and play the games. There are a lot of people like me. So there's two sides to it. There are certain games that benefit massively because it is a marketing boost. Game Pass is a marketing boost, and those games will sell more than they would have if they were not on the service. But some games don't need a marketing boost, and those games will be cannibalizing their own sales because, of course, they will. People know about them already, and they're no longer going to buy them because they're on a service. The other side of it, and this wasn't touched on in the article by the CMA or whoever's been reporting on it, is Xbox as an ecosystem has many games that are not on Game Pass. And they have to be looking, as a platform holder, they have to be looking at sales across the board, games that are in and games that are not in, to see if the existence of this service, if giving people 400 games to play is influencing their buying habits outside of that service. Because there is a very good chance that it is. So you just look at like game sales charts whenever they are released, and Xbox is just it's a ghost. It's not there. And there are less Xboxes out than there are PlayStations and Nintendo systems. But you do have to question whether Game Pass is a factor in that equation.
So you're generally saying Eurogamer is wrong and they suck. Okay.
I hate everyone, so yeah, why not?
Okay, Mega. Do you have anything to add to that? Because this one, the horde, shall we call them, have really sunk their teeth into.
Yeah, oh yeah. No, I was looking at the chat when it first came out, and they were extra messy with it. But this is the thing about Dutch and Asia, but mostly Dutch when he was just breaking it down. I'm not gonna just say some of the same things that he said, but Game Pass is the ultimate hype man. And if you don't think that it is, think about a game like Gundam Alliance that came out in September. I bought that game day one, right? And usually when it comes to Japanese games, they're real stickler about dropping their price point. And also, it's been kind of still here recently. They haven't really put those games out on Game Pass. Well, that game is on Game Pass today. Soul Hackers 3, another game that I went and I bought day one. That game is in Game Pass. The point I'm making is that if these games, and when, the first thing that, you see what I call them stands, the PlayStation community that just always likes to talk about numbers and stuff like that. They always want to talk about the sales numbers, things like that, and Game Pass is failing and dying and stuff like that. But if Namco and also Atlas didn't think that Game Pass was viable, they wouldn't have put those games in Game Pass in the first place. If they thought that those games, that their sales would be cannibalized. No, it's the Game Pass is the hype man. It's going to try to garner some attention because a lot of things, like when I was showing the gameplay to those games, oh man, that game looks kind of cool, but I don't know if I'm going to pay that $60.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And I mean, that's just the one thing about it. It's like, and I'm one of those people that buy games, even though I know that those games are going to still remain on Game Pass. Like High Five Rush. After I beat that game, I'm like, oh yeah, I just for the support of how great that game was, I had to cop. I had to sit there and show support by spending money. Now, on the opposite end, you got all these other games that's going to be coming up here on Game Pass here in the next week or so, next 2 weeks. And there was a game that I was really anticipating and was excited about, which was Wanted Dead, right? Well, if I had to buy Atomic Heart, I had to buy Wulong, and then Jedi Survivors right around the corner, and then there's Hogwarts or whatever, and then you got Most Wanted. Which game is going to get left out? Quite a few of them. You probably maybe buy 2 at the max. Yeah. So that's the thing for me, the benefit of what Game Pass has done. And also, if those games are already on Game Pass and if people love them and they still have continuous content to go forward, and that is at that 12 months, at the end of that 12 months, and they're about to, and you see that little notification that comes on your Xbox that says leaving soon, what is a lot of people are going to do if they really enjoy that game? They're going to buy it. So that's why I knew that was a clickbait article from the get, because every game depreciate. I mean, you got a game like God of War Ragnarok that was the second that was behind the game of the year. Like there's some people that thought that was the game of the year, and that game is depreciated enough to where it's $45 now. So which is it? So is it that the game, and it's not even been 12 months. So what is it? Are you trying to say that God of War God of War is now an insufficient game because of the fact that it's dropped its price, or just the reality that all games depreciate after that 2 to 3 month period? That's the reality of it. And I think when people keep on continuing to try to downplay Game Pass, the more and more you see all of these publishers that's throwing games into Game Pass. And it's not like the filler now. We having big time titles coming on to the service. So either it's people just need to look and see what's right in front of them, or just keep on believing into the bullshit. Because I think, you know what I'm saying? Because either way, I mean, I'm going to look and see what's right in front of me, and I see Game Pass thriving at this point. And if Game Pass wasn't thriving, nobody would really invest. These big publishers, especially for the ones that's not under Xbox's umbrella, would not fall up under follow suit and want to have their games be a part of the hype service. Very well said, and it's true. We had the back and forth on Twitter. Someone was talking about completion rates of games. That was something that was counter to the Game Pass, even though the Senders developer they were using as an example, literally it shot that publishing outfit to massive success, hired loads of people, they got money up front. Gamers are playing more games. It's in this climate when things are so expensive. We are basically in a recession. Why are people focusing so much on the financial viability model of this when there's no way we could realistically, getting the time alone to play the game is that bad enough. The money to pay $74, and you're right, Atomic Heart is not a small game, nor is Stalker 2. Stalker 2 is not a tiny game. You can say that. Liza P, you're paying on PlayStation, you're going to be paying full price for these games that Xbox guys will not play. And if you still, because you're a PlayStation fan, try to attack it on that basis, even if you think it's not what's it called? It's
MLB
not
still continues to go in there.
Sustainable.
MLB
is
a full price game. PlayStation guys are paying for that full price Sony game on Xbox's Game Pass. They're not paying anything extra. If it's unsustainable. What I will add to the source here, guys, is, and this is for the developer front as well, I think developers that don't notice a benefit financially going forward isn't because Game Pass isn't helping them. It's because their games aren't interesting enough to keep people engaged. And a lot of developers need to know that. It's not everybody's going to grab everybody, but if you're really engaged in a game, then you will notice the side effects of Game Pass, because again, it's the hype man mentality. It's in there, it gets people in. You think, I love this game. Like, I always buy Forza Horizon's Ultimate Edition, regardless of whether or not it's in Game Pass, because I just love Forza Horizon. I always look forward to it, everything that comes with it. So I always buy that, regardless. Yeah. But if I try a game on Game Pass and I thoroughly enjoy it, I will buy it. Like, again, mentioned Octopath Traveler. I already was buying that game before it came to Game Pass. I already had it on Nintendo Switch before it came to Game Pass. And it's not to say that every game will come to Game Pass, because it depends on what other rival platforms decide to pay that particular company for the game, whether or not they decide to pay them more to keep it on their platform, or otherwise have an exclusivity, should we say. Now, you're not going to have an exclusivity against Nintendo, because Nintendo isn't a competitor. Nintendo is an entirely separate, and it sounds like it's harsh to say that, but they're not. They're a hybrid system that doesn't come near the others. But so there's developers on the developer front, if your game's good enough, if it's enjoyable, if it keeps people engaged, then you will see a benefit from Game Pass, and you will see those positive side effects. If your game, what about this point then, Dutch, about Albert G says Game Pass? It's about cannibalizing sales, and Game Pass does that based on the lack of Xbox exclusives not showing up on the NPD for some reason. Well, I don't know why that's the thing, but maybe is it cannibalizing it to the point where they don't even appear on NPD? Can we think of any examples? I don't think Hi-Fi Rush is a good example, because that's
a good guy's face as he tries to figure out games from Xbox.
Still out, so
steady games.
I mean, Xbox had no games last 2022.
These shade tree analysts be tripping me out, man.
God. Like Hi-Fi Rush outsold Forspoken more than 2-1 over its opening week.
Absolutely.
Like, so it's But even then,
it's outdoing Returnal right now. That's why Returnal dropped in price on PC.
Yeah. And Forspoken's now $30. Like, these are games you can't just say, oh, well, they haven't got any NPDs X, Y, and Z. Like, they didn't mention the fact that Sea of Thieves has broke into the top 10 NPD this month.
It did?
Have they mentioned that? Yeah. It's in the top 10.
Oh, wow. That's got long
Europe.
sea legs.
Across Europe. And this is a game that's been out for years, but it's in the NPD. Top 10 NPD across Europe. So if they want to talk about NPD, we will. Not that it bothers me. Like, it doesn't bother me, but it certainly doesn't cannibalize sales. When you're talking about cannibalizing sales, you're also in a market where you've got the likes of Hogwarts, which is outselling Elden Ring, which did 20 million in 2 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
Like, this is a market where there's so many games coming out now across the market that the NPD is going to be notoriously hard to break into anyway.
Speculative question then. If Hogwarts Legacy had released day one on PlayStation Plus, would it have sold more or less copies?
I think it would have sold equally amounts of copies.
I think it would have sold anyway.
I don't think it would have done any damage. The thing is, and especially this, like, even I've spoken to PlayStation-only players, and none of them were aware of the difference between PlayStation Plus, Essential, Extra, or Premium. They didn't know any of that. And I said, well, listen, like, you were going to go out and buy Spider-Man for like $20 pre-owned. You can get an entire subscription service, get Spider-Man and Miles Morales in it for £10, and a mountain of other games on PlayStation. Like, you could do that.
Oh, I did that recently, didn't I? I bought another game I didn't realize on Plus. What was it?
Yeah. But instead of going to like CEX and getting a game pre-owned for $10, which PlayStation or NPD doesn't say a single dime for, not a single thing, and then it goes into a subservice where you're paying $10 a month, that's actually profit for PlayStation as opposed to the reseller, which PlayStation get no profit from. So, of course, like, there's going to be cases on both sides where people aren't aware of the subservices on both PlayStation or Xbox. And I don't think Hogwarts would have been damaged at all, because I don't think the vast majority of the people who bought Hogwarts are actually hardcore players. People that bought Hogwarts are huge Potter fans, which is why it's selling so well. That thing would have sold like hotcakes regardless, because none of these people know what Xbox Game Pass is or PlayStation Plus is. So,
It
would have sold less, but not anything like discernible.
Significant. Yeah, no, I don't. I agree with that. Another point too. I'm reading some what Broken Game said in the chat, which is kind of funny, man. He said,
BG, shout out BG.
Yeah, shout out to BG. He said basically that saving money on games shouldn't be a priority. Then that's rich coming from somebody who gets super chats and content money. You know what I mean? But when you are working check to check and you ain't doing content creating and things like that, I would want to see if anybody would risk it all by not buying a game on discount. That don't make any sense. Yeah,
I'll read his super chat. It says, I just feel Xbox guys are hyper-focused on price more than the value coming from quality. They are more excited about saving money more than actual games. Saving money is cool, but shouldn't be priority.
If you look after your money, then saving money is priority. It's an adult life thing.
Right.
Like, if you're an adult, you should be looking at areas to manage your money better, not just spend it for the sake of spending it. If you can get the same thing and it's costing you far less, then of course you're going to save money,
that money
because
for PlayStation
then you can
VR
use that
too,
money
of
to invest
course.
elsewhere.
Right. See, this is the thing that cracks me up when people say things like this in the gaming space and make it sound like it's cool, but it doesn't make any sense in the real world. So you don't save money, you don't have money in the bank, you're not doing stocks, you're not over here saving up for kids for your kids for maybe their birthday, or if you're well off enough to where you could give have money saved for their college, or things like, or if you want to have a trip with your wife or things like that. If you're basically just saying, oh, it's right here and there, I get paid, let's go hit a trip, let's go do that. That's not the real world, bro. So how is it that, and if that was the real world in gaming, then there wouldn't be discounts in gaming, and there wouldn't be digital sales like every 2 or 3 months. You know what I mean? So like, I just don't understand that quality. I mean, if you try to tell me that High Rise Rush is not quality, or even go back to anything. I mean, because to me, it's all about how that individual feels about certain games. But to me, High Rise Rush, regardless because of the way it looks graphically, I would put that game up to anything that's out right now, except for maybe Hogwarts, because Hogwarts looks absolutely, yeah. So
you were hating on Hi-Fi Rush and said it only had 4 reviews, and now it's got 40 plus, and it's still at 88, 89.
Yeah.
Come on,
that's another game. That's another game I finished and bought. Like, I loved that game so much, I bought it. After
that's a bit of that's a niche. I don't think many people did that.
Yeah,
admirable that you did to support the dev.
I know there's a lot of people on that front as well. Like, especially when I've seen, if you have a look at the comment sections on a lot of these things as well, is some people say, "Listen, like I absolutely love this game, and I had to give you additional support and actually buy it because I loved it that much." And yes, it is. It's, of course, it's not the majority of people doing that, but there are people that are doing that. And again, there's a lot of times, and we've all been victim of this. Acer has, Gaz has, I have, K-Mega has, where we've had those pre-orders, we've got them day one, and it's been absolutely shit.
Yeah.
We've been
yes. Yes.
And it happens. So of course, and this is over a number of years. Like, I've been, as many of us have now, have been gaming since original console games came out and beforehand. So we've had enough of these burns to date to know where to invest our money properly and when to just take a step back and say, well, try it first. If it's great, then I'll invest. If it's not, then no harm, no worry. But there's got to be, it's not just a focus on finances, which is what these people are focusing on, but if you're actually smart with your money, then you're not going to just jump the gun and buy everything outright, because it could be terrible.
Yeah, BG, I kind of get like the focus on the quality thing, but well, it's not fair that you're not here on the panel to defend yourself. So I don't want to, but I will read your chats if you do come counter it.
That's true too. That's true too.
Yeah,
shout out to BG though.
Yeah, shout out to him. Mad respect for him, and I love his podcast as well.
Same, yeah.
Yeah, his panel's crazy.
He just on some bullshit right now. That's all I'm just saying. With that comment.
I got mad love for him. Danny Passion Official, thank you so much for the $2 super. Because it's like saying free-to-play games won't sell copies, and then he says, I can't wait to cannibalize Atomic Heart next week. BG, come on, man. Are you saying Lies of P is like not quality game, or Atomic Heart doesn't look like it has quality, or Stalker 2 doesn't look like it has quality, or Wo Long? Someone is playing that right now. Do you think that's not going to have quality? Or even Forza, or I mean the first parties, the quality's there. Like, it's hard to make that argument because we're focusing on value. But the value is gleaned from the experience. And I like that it's changing the narrative. Higher on Life sat on a crap-ish Metacritic, and I loved it. I played Higher Life. This is me. I played Higher Life more than I did God of War, maybe. But it's like it's changing the paradigm as well. And it's boosting up indies. What it's doing, and that point when you made BG, it was making me think indies don't get that fair share. Now, more than ever, they are almost getting a level playing. Oh, well, I say quite strongly, and that's why I just can't see it as a bad thing. If Microsoft shits the bed, a Game Pass isn't sustainable, they walk away from the deal, then that happens. Why is your attitude not, let's just rinse this service now, save the money now, play all the games, and if they fuck it up, at least we got to save a lot of money, because everyone here, I'm sure, has saved quite a lot of money on prospective purchases that I wouldn't have been able to play. Scorn, which I still refuse to delete, which is a game I wouldn't have probably bought, but I have experienced it on Game Pass, thanks to Game Pass. I've experienced so many games on Game Pass. You think about Vampire Survivors, or there's a trillion games like that. That's why I find it weird to hate on Game Pass on that point, unless you say the quality is dwindled when it's not. But we'll
really like this should be obvious, but these things aren't always obvious. When I was saying the things that I said about potentially cannibalizing sales of certain games, boosting other ones, please don't take that as a criticism of Game Pass. Excuse me. Like, as a criticism of Game Pass from my perspective as a consumer, like, yeah, give me all them games on the subservice. I love all the subservices. I'm a junkie for it, and I will play everything. So I'm not coming at it from a negative perspective, trying to say like, oh, Game Pass sucks, the games are selling less. Like, that's fine by me. Like, everyone's getting paid and I'm playing games, and I'm fine.
Yeah. Chat, stop being messy. To BG there. K Asante, thank you for the $5 super chat. I might be late to the party, but is that my man K Mega looking so swell? Salute to you, brother.
My man, K Asante, man. Good guy. Good brother, man. Good brother.
Shout out to him. Yeah, I always DMing him and Everboard. He says in 2021, Game Pass put $7,000 worth of games on the service. It's an eye-watering amount. I personally saved so much. I didn't buy Halo Infinite, but I paid $100 on the £100 for this stupid microtransactions. Shit, waste of money, just like Apex was. Tom909, thank you for the £5 super chat. It's almost like core gamers will pay for a great game even if it's on Game Pass. Casuals who only play a few will still pay £130 per year for access. Absolutely, they will. It's in bringing in audiences that wouldn't necessarily even experience your game, and then of the avenue of them onwardly introducing them to games they would play. Hi-Fi Rush is a beat rhythm action game, man. Like, can we consider the genre of that? It's pretty niche. It sits there with the Parappa the Rappers, and are we expecting that to sell madly? That had no marketing because its shadow dropped. We didn't even know it existed until it dropped. Like, it's a bit weird. And then you've got Forza that does sell, or Dirt 5 that does sell, or Descenders. I said their sales went through, and like, when are we going to stop that? I don't know. But it's good to have that discussion.
I think ultimately what I will say is, of course, and everybody knows this, devs, first of all devs get a very fair chunk of money when they join the service in the first place. So they haven't lost anything.
More than that.
Anything that they get additionally after Game Pass is a bonus because they've already made their money. Specifically, what Microsoft tend to do, especially with some of the larger ones, is pay for a large chunk of the development cost of whatever that game is in order to get on the service. So they've already pretty much covered their development cost, which is what the first hurdle for every game to do is to make their money back. Once they've made their money back, then they start making money. So that's where Game Pass comes into play. Microsoft pays a big chunk, which covers a lot of the development cost for a lot of these games, indies or otherwise, so that when they do come onto Game Pass, any of those additional sales are then additional sales. They are profit. They aren't just trying to make up the rounds. That is a side that people don't think quite understand. Additionally, though, I also agree that indies are going to benefit from a subservice far more than any big AAA game will ever.
Absolutely. I'm talking to an indie developer in the background right now, whose game is quite big, very successful, and it's coming to Xbox soon. You can guess what that is based on what I've just told you. And he actually reached out to me, and he said, "Look, what's this nonsense about cannibalizing game sales?" Because I think, I'm not going to mention who it is, they've got an offer from Xbox pending to come get on Game Pass. It's a big game, a big indie game. I think big indie game seems like a contradiction, but no, it's not. It is going to be quite big. He says he had that concern. He reached out to me. I don't know why me of all people. I'm going to give him and say, just do it. But I walked him through like to say, why do you think that is? Just isn't it simply weighing up how much you're going to get paid up front? Which, let's be honest with you, they paid that Cookout game like $400,000 or $500,000 or something stupid for that game. And this game is way more scope, and it's multiplayer, and it has a scope for that. And he was just WhatsApping me. He goes, "Look, I don't get it." He goes, we're going to have a meeting with the team, but we saw this. It was a bit concerning. This is indie dev reading this stuff on the news, and like he reached out to me, like we built a rapport on WhatsApping, but it's like. He goes, it doesn't make sense to me. I don't understand why you'd think that. So it's a bit of a strange one, but the sentiment is starting to maybe perhaps get traction for the wrong reasons, because Dutch, you quite succinctly put perspective on what actually the statement from Eurogamer was. Huggy Channy with the $10 super chat goes, it's all relevant as games don't go to Game Pass for free. The pubs are paid based on their terms. Game Pass makes $2.9 billion per year, a year, according to Microsoft. Xbox makes enough on Game Pass to pay their own teams plus add third-party games. And I don't know how they would qualify it, Huggy, all the DLC content that comes into it, because it's not directly linked to it, but it's an organic part of the revenue generation.
That's part of it. That's where they...
Is it part of it?
Yeah, absolutely.
They track that somehow? Oh, okay.
So, it's they can track it because they know people who play the game in Game Pass that don't buy the base game, but buy the DLC.
Mm-hmm.
They know that's a knock-on effect. They know that's absolutely interesting with Game Pass. So that is a byproduct of Game Pass or being in the service. So it is where the profit is made. And that's what the model is always about for the first-party titles, specifically those that are going to have DLCs, add-ons, deluxe editions, etc. We saw that with Forza Horizon, of course. Everyone went out. Despite it being in Game Pass, everyone went out and bought that little deluxe edition add-on that was like 30 quid just to play the game of like 5 days early. Yeah. And that game just went rapid. And that is exactly the kind of stuff Microsoft like to see, because those little bits of DLC, that's where the profit comes from.
Yeah.
Like that DLC,
Donnie,
profit
shut up.
So it's absolutely trackable. It's on Microsoft's side, it's absolutely trackable, and that's again the perfect thing for multiplayers. Any multiplayer games that go into Game Pass, because of their DLCs, etc. If that game remains there, they're not bothered about the base game. If they can sell if their game's good enough as a multiplayer offering or a service that has DLC elements, and they're going to get enough of a foothold and enough of users to start creating this MTX stuff or this DLC money, that's where they're making fortunes from.
Which is like a lot of people's biggest concern with Game Pass, is that that's the direction that gaming goes, though. So that's not necessarily a good thing for us.
It's not always. It's not all of them, of course. I understand, Darius. I understand what you're saying. It's not always. It's not always going to be like that, of course, because there's got to be a lot of single player games in there. I think
Microsoft can manage that and enable the curation or development of single player games, because they recognize that you need those single player games as well. So Microsoft first party wise will support that, but absolutely multiplayer titles are best poised to deal with that.
Yeah.
And then my conversation with the developer was that it's like, do you have DLC planned? Maybe.
And then people get kind of skeptical and thought that there was going to be a big turnaround in the gaming once the free to play market really started to blow up.
Yeah.
That's where I kind of look at it, is like when things are new, people want to try to bring up a point of being of this panic, and because we don't know what to expect from it. I think that there's always going to be traditional game buyers out there, and I feel that there's for people who are that's financially conscious, or they are financially stuck and they don't have the opportunity to get a chance to play these type of games. I feel that what Microsoft is doing, I feel that PlayStation should do it as well, is give the opportunity for gamers who paid for your system and showed the love, give those people who don't have the assets to get an opportunity to play these games like that. That's why I think, for me, Game Pass is just essential and should be a part of gaming all through gaming.
Absolutely.
That's my thing. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's just such a, like, if we are going to shit on Game Pass, that means that's why humanity can't have good things. Like, it's such a win-win. Yes, there may be long-term implications. Yes, we all talk about the viability of it, the feasibility of it for Microsoft, the challenges, monetization.
They're a $1 trillion company. Why are we worried about their pockets?
Yeah, absolutely. Other than if you're worried about that, this will go away and I'll stop saving money, fine. But then when people realize how much they're actually spending, it's saving us all money. Like, and I just find it weird.
Especially this year, you've got to say.
Especially this year,
Dead
man.
Space, Hogwarts, Jedi, like all of these games, like Resident Evil 4, Street Fighter 6, like all of these games that are coming out in the first.
Can't wait for Street Fighter 6.
You've already spent like $1,000 or something in the opening first 6 months.
Exactly.
That's not including the additional games that are going into Game Pass. Like,
it's mad.
You've got to know where to balance it. Yeah.
I mean, we'll talk about that next. Actually, we'll talk about I was going to talk about the next most anticipated games, and there'll be a bit of a false advertising if we didn't, but we're running out of time. We talked for ages. LMNOPO, thank you for the $20. We'll have to talk about the CMA stuff as well. Thank you for the $20 super stickers. First $20. That's really generous, man. Because first off, the source is loose. Second, welcome to the show, K-Mega. Welcome, sir.
Ooh, thank you. Thank you.
Inducted now. Third, if Hi-Fi Rush went physical, I'd double dip and collect it even after just beating it. Game Pass is very much about discovery rather than renting. There it is. And it's so true that's the word, discovery. I mean, there's so many games that people are playing.
We had this. I think I remember it was like last year, the year before. We had this big thing about indie games kicking off at PlayStation because they weren't being discovered enough. Because the way that the PlayStation Store model worked didn't allow them to have that discoverability.
Absolutely,
this is one of the major bonuses on Game Pass. Major bonuses, because every time they drop a little tweet on there that says these games are coming out this month, they push that continuously all the time. And that's like, people are like, what is this game? Okay, let's try this game. They download it just for the sake of downloading it. They discover it, they love it, they buy it.
And you know what? That's a great point. You know, I forgot which game it was, or the developers was really pissed off that the discoverability on PlayStation Store was really bad. Well, Xbox Game Pass does really well. It doesn't make any distinction, because we had this conversation like we should give indies more of a space spotlight. But at the moment you put that label indie, people like gamers, whether you like to believe it or not, they have this like really upper nose, get really bougie with their games, and we're like, oh no, we're not considering indie. Yeah, indies are the ones that really are the spirit of the games, the only guys who take risks, replace like all this stuff. Everything else in the AAA space mostly is generic as fuck. And I was going to make a video on it. And Xbox is just doing that. By Game Pass, there, shits out this game on tiles. Indies there. Everything is there. The distinction is almost going away. And that's why I love Xbox Game Pass for that reason alone. That you're supporting indie developers, paying them over the top money that they can do it, and then they can monetize it further. Vampire Survivors, Element of PO, you're right. Discovery. That game was out. It only got discovered by a matter of, I think, a couple of people, and then just cascade effect. It was because of discovery. And then Phil Spencer actually fought to get that game on Game Pass. Well, he didn't have to fight. He's the head of Xbox. So he basically said, well, I shouldn't have said this because someone told me this. But yeah, okay. Let me not get in trouble. You done it because I had to take away the $5 super chat. Cole told me. And he was in party chat with Phil Spencer. I'm going to say it. Phil Spencer was in party chat with Cole, and he was telling him like, he discovered this game and he's like, look, we're going to get this game. And everyone's like, why? It's like, just get this. He's stuck there. He didn't shave. He would just play that game. But it's discovery. And it's all about that kind of natural discovery. Like Sea of Thieves only became the game it was because of discovery through natural, what was his name? Summit 1G. He was like showing the game, the PvP elements. Like my own brother didn't give a shit about Sea of Thieves. He doesn't really care about Xbox. But he's like, have you seen this game? I'm like, bro, I've been talking about this for ages. And it's like, oh yeah, because Summit 1G was playing it. It's that organic discovery. Game Pass is changing that. There will be challenges very soon, because people and developers are dying to get on the service. And now Xbox has this problem of balancing who comes on there. And you get these AAA games, the challenge will be, will indies get their fair share? Because the high price that Microsoft's paying now to entice developers, I'm sure that's getting down. And now they're like, we're going to offer you less and less, because supply and demand. So let's see. But there's a lot there to unpack. Yodani with the $5 super check goes, I remember talking about Xbox buying Warner Brother games. Imagine that now with Hogwarts. Of course, the whole publisher is different than IPs or licenses. Warner Brothers has always been on the cards, by the way. They've openly said it and looking to sell licenses. Tomorrow at 4 p.m. UK time, I've got a video on all the comic book games. I've started discovering comic books myself. Warner Brothers is a license. So I'm hearing from, I don't want to be that guy. Fuck it. Anyway, apparently... The rumor mill is suggesting that Sony's doubling down on superhero licenses and games like that. If Microsoft is not even in that conversation, they're so stupid. They're so stupid for not thinking about that. Warner Brothers want to have a conversation. Microsoft and Phil Spencer have said they don't really want to be interested in these deals unless they own the IP. I'm like, just shut up, man, and just freaking get DC stuff or Marvel, whatever.
It costs a lot of money. I think, I know, but this is the thing. Like, though, the return for some of these games is not going to. They're not going to be like as popular or as big time as like a Spider-Man, you know. And then on top of that, it's who is going to make those games. I mean, that also plays into it, because it's just like what Dutch was just saying earlier. Like, okay, let's say there'll be a Black Panther game. Yeah, let's go, right?
Absolutely.
Xbox
there is one, actually.
Bro, what? Well, I know that there. Captain America and the
Captain America.
But the thing. My point is like let's just say that there's one of an Xbox studio that makes that game, but the game comes out to be a 74 meta, but it's still a fun game. The damage is already done because you know how the internet operates, and so the money that Xbox has invested into Black Panther, then that's going to be one of those games. That's what's going to be a watch. And I think that's what Xbox is afraid of. But I do agree with you that even if they don't mess with a superhero game, they need to do something like The Mandalorian, if that rumor is true, or like with Indiana Jones and stuff like that. Get some properties outside of just the comic book players, and then and bring those entities in if that's what you rather do to be an alternative. But they need some kind of alternative. I do agree with that 100%.
They do. They definitely do. They definitely do. And when I was working on this video, I'm working on 2 comic book ones, but this one I was just like, oh my God, man. Like the industry is doubling down on these comic book games. Microsoft, there's a massive avenue there. And it's almost like a guaranteed win if we can hit the quality marks. But we'll talk about that. Hoggy Chani, thank you for the $10 super chat. Goes, doesn't Netflix dominate the awards now? What about the quality? This is PlayStation's market strategy to disparage services that they'll eventually adopt. Guess Horizon Forbidden West is in quality 12 months later in PlayStation Plus.
I love the message. Love the message.
From Hoggy. Expertly delivered super chat.
Oh, man.
I have to say, Asa, he is hitting the nail there. That was a freaking laser. That almost redeemed himself for the God of War comment on the 11 million sales thing. That was raw. He is right. Netflix isn't all the game awards. Like, everyone does consume their services, their content through Netflix. I don't watch terrestrial TV. PlayStation Plus Microsoft strategy 100% is predicated on the notion of delaying this tactic so they can adopt it, because it's not feasible for them. They want to stick to the $70 price tag. We've seen that, and they will eventually adopt it. Horizon Forbidden West, 12 months later on PlayStation Plus. All of the signs are there. Quality. I don't know why you said Asa, but I don't know if you have anything to add there. You were quiet there for a while. I just wanted to get you. I felt bad.
I've been up since 5 this morning, so no, I don't have a lot to add to anything at the moment, apart from... No, nothing. Carry on.
If you want to say it, come on, man. Or are you just tired?
No, I can't articulate thoughts anymore, so...
I'm sorry. I know you do so much shit in the background as well. My bad. But yeah, it was a good chat. And Huggy, I might have to clip that and share that out. Yeah, so Game Pass conversation is going to be, there's so many things I want to talk about, like comic book and stuff, especially with you, K-Mega. But obviously you, Dutch, I don't know if you like comic book stuff. Do you like comic book stuff? You do? Okay. I'm new to it. Every time, when I was a kid, I read them and I loved it. They were so violent.
I've started to get into like animes and things a little bit more now. I've noticed you posting about that. So it's good to see that. It's good to see that.
Yeah, when I was a kid, I couldn't
like there was, I've forgotten who it was. I think it was Everborn actually who was commenting saying I need to see a Dead Space where they just talk about the like what happened beforehand, etc. I was like, have you not watched Dead Space Downfall?
Oh, like is that anime about when they discovered
what happens?
What's it called?
That's how they discover the relic. That's how the Ishimura goes down.
What's it called? They call it the relic? They call it something else.
Relic, a totem relic. I don't know what they call it.
I don't know what it's called.
The artifact.
That's no chat. But yeah, it's true.
Dead Space Downfall, brilliant anime. Like if you haven't seen it, go watch it. Yeah, absolutely brilliant.
I saw it on Netflix. I never just ignored it.
It's the origin story of what happened to the Ishimura. They actually have like, if you've played the game, they have the characters from that in the game, but obviously dead. Floating around, and you can kind of see all the main characters and things just dead and floating about, and there's like little clips and things in there. Yeah.
That's wicked. I like that. I like that kind of thing. I'm distracted by the Sousa's comment. He goes, I hate comics except Captain Planet. He's the best. Xbox could have had the first common aware game. What? I used to watch that. Captain Planet. He's a hero. Gonna take pollution down to zero. Well, fucked up, didn't you, Captain Planet? Because the world is going to shit. You failed, Captain Planet.
He failed bad. Yeah.
I'm definitely into comics. Like on the point of comics, man. I'm X-Men, the new one. This what's his name? The new writer. So good. Batman. Shut up, guys. There's a show. To talk about very quickly. Look, we're past the time. Chat. We will move the most anticipated games thing for next week. I'm really sorry, but we're running out of time. I'm conscious of the time for these gents as well. I will say this one thing on the CMA point. Jim Ryan, he's now flying to Seattle, maybe to potentially just strike a deal. Eurogamer says Xbox fans track flights of Sony execs. Now, I like Eurogamer. I like the Digital Foundry guys. I thought, wait, what? What Xbox fans? There's one analyst called Florian Mueller that tracked it down. A Eurogamer construed that as Xbox fans plural, and now they're tracking. But I don't know. Well, beyond the clickbait, obviously slow news week, right? We've got the Redfall thing, and now we've got this. I saw on the PlayStation Camp lots of concern, like the Red Dragon crying and a whole fat dissertation on why this deal, like, it's going to go through. But what's happening? Do you believe
it's all about conspiracy theories? You thought he might be trying to get into a little balloon himself and go find out if that's true. So I don't know.
Yeah, it's true. He's mental. But Jim Ryan is actually flying to Seattle. Do you believe that to strike a deal? Like, what's happening here? Because now they haven't sat on the table yet. They haven't answered their calls. But it sounds like Sony are now in a last-ditch attempt, potentially, but are trying to now talk, because the regulators are also, sorry to add, I've said it before, Lena Khan is fucking crazy. Now someone else has left from the FTC saying this woman has complete disregard to the rule of law. And we've had 2 people leave now. Now it's a bad look for the FTC. Good deal for Microsoft, especially if a court case hanging out there, because the judge is going to be like, well, what's going on? So, gents, I posted out there, put myself out there, said the deal's going through. Just when everyone said it's going to fail, I put it out there, put myself out there. I'll still put myself out there. I was going to put out a tweet yesterday with Goku doing a spirit bomb, and I'm just going to be like, yeah, I'm collecting receipts, bitches, because the deal's going through. But what do you think, K-Maga? Is Jim Ryan out there getting carpet burns now at Seattle, trying to finally get this deal through?
That would be funny. But listen, I've heard that there was, matter of fact, my boy Viper, he said that it was from a different venue out there, because I believe that I can't remember what PlayStation studio is out there in Seattle, but that was why he went out that way. So that part, I don't know if it's true or not. Yeah, but it is pretty convenient, even though around this time frame, I'm with you. And that's pretty funny that we have been in agreement a lot today. So I was expecting some crash and burn, but it's all good. You've been on the right side of history today. So, but the thing to me is that I'm 90% sure that this is going to go through too. I think that there's going to be some heavy concessions though. And I feel that Microsoft they got to comply, succumb to the throat needle, get hit for however many years, for how many games, and then, have the last laugh at the end. But yeah, I see that. I think that it's just like I posted on Twitter yesterday. I said, I don't know which is worse, the Eurogamer article or the person that first reported it. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like that's mental. I got too many things going on in the day to worry about what's going on with the ABK deal. I mean, I am, and as much as I am interested about all this, the ups and downs about it, it's just ridiculous to see that somebody is looking at someone's flight and knowing that that's the flight that Jim Ryan is on to go to Seattle and what, read the report and analyze all that. That's nuts. Now that's a next level. Like that is an Xbox stand. Like, I don't know, like, bro, that, you know what I'm saying? I'm an Xbox, but I ain't no Xbox stand. So that I ain't doing all that. I got other things to be doing. But I definitely, I think it's crazy. The clickbait with the media, the media has been extra messy here the last couple of months, in my opinion. So, and it's definitely a slow news week if that's one of their headline stories. But again, I wouldn't be surprised. I'm going to side with my boy Viper because he tends to pay attention to those type of things more than I do. But if Jim Ryan is going out there to Seattle to talk to Microsoft, then that should give an indication that they feel that this deal is almost is going to be in Microsoft's favor. So,
well, chat is saying that actually in Seattle, they've got Bungie and another studio. That's why he's probably there. Sucker Punch. So
yeah, that's what he said. He said Bungie. That's who he said. He said Bungie. So
fair enough.
Yeah, because I think that they're going to probably announce one of their games that they're working on or something with whatever. But I don't know. But yeah, it would be interesting.
Yeah, we're heading towards some key dates. I wish Post Up was here because he knows all of the dates.
Yeah, he posts. Yeah,
he has the follow the deal madly. Yeah. I did prefer his previous profile photo, but hopefully we can have him on here actually and closer to those key dates. It'd be fun to have him on. But would put you on the spot here. You've already done it. You've already confirmed. 90% sure. We'll clip it. It's stuck in the history books, so you're stuck with me. Dutch, put yourself on the pedestal. Don't be giving me no and I'm going to put Asa in there, even though he doesn't give a shit. But what do you think about if you're going to say the deal is going through, yes or no? What do you think? And chat, let me know. Yes,
absolutely. It's absolutely going through. It was always going to come down to remedies. With deals of this size, it always comes down to remedies, big or small. I do not think in any way, shape, or form that they're going to have to divest parts of the business. I think it's going to be remedies and more on the organizational and access front than anything else. And at the end of the day, Microsoft didn't buy. Primarily, they didn't buy ABK for the IP. The IP was a nice bonus. They didn't buy it for Call of Duty. That was a nice bonus. They bought it primarily for the mobile side. They bought it for King. And the mobile offerings that they had, and going forward, their expertise so that they could grow the mobile side of the business. That and cloud, again, the key thing. But on Sony's front, it was. Of course, they were going to kick up a fuss. It was Jim Ryan's kind of essential position to defend his brand and his platform to the utmost. But their long-term game plan, all the way through, was always to be able to get leverage in order to negotiate a deal, so that when it come to it, they wouldn't have the same kind of thing that they had with Bethesda, where they don't get Starfield, where they don't get Elder Scrolls, where they don't get Indiana Jones, where they don't get all of these games. Like, they don't want that to happen again. So of course they're going to kick up a fuss this time around. And the the Bethesda deal wasn't big enough to garner such traction in FTC, CME, EU. Like, yes, it was like 8 billion, but as in terms of a scope, they were just like, nah, it's not even worth worrying about. Of course, that can go through. When you're talking 69 billion, of course there's going to be much more in-depth intricacies when it comes to the deal. But Sony's front,
70 billion,
70 billion, and that's minimum, by the way. 70 billion is the starting point. Then it's also the legal fees that come through it, and that's several other billion for the legal fee side of things. So,
by the way, just to add perspective on the value of the money, so Pakistan, the country, is in a state of mad, like it's almost a failed state now, because it's got loans to pay. It's asking for a 7 billion loan from the IMF, and it owes China 30 billion, and the whole country's future lies on that. Think about it. If 30 billion, and in total it probably owes 100 billion, this gaming company is 70 billion. It would change the fate of the entire country and the populace within it, because there are hard times for people in Pakistan, my relatives back home. The perspective of how mad the 70 billion is, because we look at the billions like, it's nothing. Pakistan are breaking their backs to prove to the IMF, well, they're very shit with their money, that they tried to get 7 billion. That's the price of ZeniMax, plus more. It's actually less. So just some perspective. Sorry, that's fucking crazy.
It's absolutely true. It's absolutely true. And the difference, of course, there is it all boils down to debt, which is why it's so hard for them to do it, because the entire world runs on debt. Like every country has debt, massive debt. There's no way every country will be debt free ever, because that's how the world works.
Banking systems, people. Debt. Interest,
banking system.
Evil.
But this is you are completely right. But when a deal of this magnitude does go, it has to be thoroughly checked top to bottom, and there will be concessions, absolutely. But this deal was always going to go through, because there isn't anything that actually overall, in the grand scheme of things, severely harms the consumer. And that is the only thing. Of course, it's going to get checked to make sure it does, but does it actually severely harm the consumer? The answer is no. Ultimate bottom line, the answer is no, because games like Call of Duty will never be singular platform, just as Minecraft isn't, and that's why it's on 220 million plus sales and remains going. Just as all of those multiplat games will remain, of course, any multiplayer-based game will always remain multiplat because of the size of the player base, and it makes financial sense.
Do you think all multiplayer, Activision's multiplayer suite will be there, or is it just COD?
Absolutely. I think COD will be. I think Diablo will be. I think obviously we can't count
Overwatch.
Overwatch. All them games, of course, they'll stay multi-plat.
Yeah.
We've got
Overwatch is free to play, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
Yeah. So.
And that's the reason. Like, of course, they're not going to restrict that. There's no need for it to be restricted. And Microsoft's entire point is get more people to play games. When it comes to single player games, it's a different story entirely. Because, and this is another thing that Microsoft will be looked at long term, is like, you can have all these IPs, but we can create new IPs, and those games don't have to be multi-plat. We can just create new IPs. We've got a whole breadth of IP that Sony haven't kicked up a fuss about. They haven't mentioned Crash Bandicoot. They haven't mentioned Tony Hawk's. They haven't mentioned Spyro.
They didn't mention Crash. Even though that was like a mascot.
Like, they haven't made a big fuss of the single player games. The only ones they really made a fuss about is the multiplayer games, because the multiplayer games make them money. They don't care about the games that don't make them money. And that's the bottom line. So Sony's prerogative all the way through was just to push enough boundaries, kick up enough fuss to get enough leverage when it comes to the negotiating table. So, of course, it's, I think, and the guy that tracked the flights, I think he's just generically on the financial side, just tracks flights for financial deals going through, as well as kind of financial analysis. So he's not even an Xbox player per se. He's just tracking big financial deals and kind of their progress as they go through. So, which was made the article
really off kilter then.
Yeah, which made the article even funnier. It was like, this guy isn't even an Xbox player. He just reports on financial tracking. Like,
that's wild.
What are you talking about?
I didn't know. Okay, well, my bad for calling him a stand. Then I didn't even know. I just thought it was like that's creepy.
The guy that
caught it. That's it. I'm clipping that, sending it to you. Love it.
The guy didn't even care about that aspect. Like, he's just tracking big financial deals and like their progress, etc. And this being the biggest in any industry for a long time outside of kind of oil and commodities. And even then, a lot of the big oil and commodities things are much smaller than this these days. So it is one of the biggest deals in financial history.
It is. It's crazy.
So it's, of course, it's going to get tracked by financial analysis and things like that. But no, on that side thing, it's Sony, of course, were always going to push boundaries. They were trying to get leverage when it comes to the negotiating table. They're going to get what they want to an extent. They're not going to get in perpetuity. Microsoft offered 10 years. I don't think they'll extend beyond those 10 years because they've already offered the same terms across the board. They want to be fair. So they're not going to go back to Steam and they're not going to go back to Nintendo and say, listen, we're going to rip up that 10 years and we're going to renegotiate based on what Sony wants, and everybody gets 15 years now instead. So I think
maybe
what
they
we'll do
might
is...
do. You never know. Maybe.
I think
it's not even a big deal for them. It's like, all right, we'll give you 15. It makes no difference to them.
But they're not going to get in perpetuity. That's never been done in the
contractually. It just makes no sense.
Yeah. No,
it just wouldn't work.
And the reason, and Microsoft have said that the reason they're not offering in perpetuity is because they have no idea what's going to happen in the market in the next 10 years.
Yeah.
So they offered 10 because where are we going to be in 10 years? Oh, no idea.
Unless they take those structural remedies and think divestment or somehow, and that's a fat L. I don't think they'll do that.
But even then, I don't think, divestment wouldn't make sense either. Well, how would that benefit anything? And then they've got to look at things from, like, and I know they've got to protect the consumer, but they have to look at some point, FTC, CMA, and EU all have to look at the effects of the workforce and how the workforce is affected.
And consumers.
Because at the end of the day, they are both workforce and consumers. Not only are they making these games, but they're still consuming these games. Yeah. So they have to look at it from both angles, and for both the benefit of the consumer going forward, who will still remain to be able to play all these multiplayer games, some of them with better access. Maybe they offer the ability for these games to go into a sub-service. Yeah. I don't know. But or it could just be that Sony negotiate a higher slice of the sales pie for Call of Duty on that console. Instead of 70-30, we go, okay, well, money. If we agree to this, we want it 50-50 on the sales thing. And then Microsoft go, whatever, okay. At the end of the day, we're still making money from it, so we don't care.
Yeah.
So, and Game Pass will thrive.
Yeah.
So it will. Yes, exactly. It will. And then it will really cannibalize sales. And let me hit Alvin's super chat. Thank you for the $5. He goes, wait, Sony just acquired another AAA studio today. Ballistic Moon. In the middle of all this, they have no shame. Well, who's Ballistic Moon? I don't know. I didn't hear about that. But okay. AJH in chat, what are you talking about? Just shout out. Look, people, I didn't get a chance to have the most anticipated game, but there'd be a lot. If to do it justice, we'd need to have the energy and a lot of time, and Ace is about to lag. Dare I ask you about ABK? No, just scream. Yeah, no,
I can tell you. So on Monday, I'm going to be in Redmond protesting about Forza VR, like I always do every Monday. Tuesday, I'm going to fly over to wherever it is in Europe that they've got this hearing with the European competition, whatever they're called. That's a serious one. So hopefully we'll actually find out something a lot more concrete after that, because Microsoft are sitting in a courtroom with Sony and Google and Nvidia and EA and Valve to plead their case and try and get this deal through. And I'm going to attend that. This Tuesday, I think, Pancake Day.
You're going to attend it.
I'm going to attend it, and I'm going to ask Bobby Kotick on the spot. I'm going to say, in what scenario am I more likely to get Call of Duty VR? And he's going to say under oath, whatever gets the deal to go through, because he has no soul. He's just going to lie. Deal will go through. And yeah, that's what's happening.
And there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. Ace's contribution to the APK thing. Probably that's much we will get from it, because it's all like fluff at the moment. So we're so sick of it, but you can't avoid it. It's 70 billion. And for the reason, Dutch, you nailed the head there about this deal and the ramifications of it. And then generally, I think we all feel positive. Asa, I don't know where he is at, but the deal will go through, but we'll find out.
I don't think Asa cares, really.
I don't think he does. It doesn't give a all he cares about is VR. We're going to say goodbye, but before we do that, we have to give the outros. Please hit the like button if you did enjoy the chat and the banter. My camera battery's dying. Before that, Asa, what's in store for your peoples who watch your stream? I watched it on Thursday. I was there trolling you.
Yes, you were. So I obviously PlayStation VR 2 I hopefully get on Wednesday. I've not had like a delivery confirmation, but hopefully that'll arrive. I'm planning to spend a lot of the time online dicking around with that so people can be introduced to it at the same time as I am. Pancake Day, I will play something celebratory on a flat screen, and usual show on a Thursday. Hopefully some other stuff going on. I have started getting footage for my very big video, stylized one.
The sequel.
Yeah, it's so good if I get it done. So hopefully it takes a long time. That's hard work. I will get that done. It's going to be brilliant. So there are things to look forward to. But yeah, thanks, Sake Mega, Wandering Dutch, as always, for giving it a good chat and keeping the show running nice and smooth. Interesting points all around. And I'm ready to sleep. So
let's do it. Let's do it. Dutch, man, as always, you kill it. You've been here like countless times now. I hope you had a good time. I know you did. You don't even lie to me, piece of you loved it. Please tell people where they can find you and all that stuff.
Yes, awesome. Awesome being here as always. Great being on with K-Mega. Yeah, love it getting it saucy, and of course trying to iron out some of the facts, because people like to spin things for clicks, especially paid websites that have loads of advertisements on. But yeah, but no, it's absolutely awesome. You can find me everywhere as usual. I'm Wondering Dutch, on YouTube at Wondering Dutch, home of the Midweek Mix-Up podcast. And of course, everyone can find me there. We are back again next week. You can find us every Wednesday for the main show and every second Sunday for the weekend edition. So yes, pleasure as always.
Before we do the last one, I'll give you the $5 super chat. What's worse, the battery life on the PSVR 2 controllers or Gaz's camera? It's 2 hours, so it's better. It's definitely the PSVR 2 control that's worse. Thank you for that. Last but certainly not least, K-Mega, man, thank you again for coming on the show. I hope you had a good time on your debut, man.
Had a blast, man. You know what I'm saying? Hope that this won't be the last time, man. I
absolutely
really had a great time. I wanted to, it's good that we got you back on Team Green, because Albert G said best Xbox podcast ever. I know that you were swaying back and forth there a little bit, but I'm glad that me and Dutch got you back on Team Green. But shout out to everybody, man. Thank you guys for the invite, Dutch. Thanks, all you guys. This is my first time working with y'all, man. So it was a blast. I see my girl Delilah HD and just so many other people, man. You know what I'm saying? Much love to them. But yeah, check out the GRG podcast every Friday night, 8 p.m. Central, the Lord's time, 9 p.m. Eastern, which is the devil's time, and I always have to make fun of the East Coast, and then 6 o'clock Pacific, and I do a thing on Sunday nights. I'm going to start going early now since football is over with. It's about like 8:30 p.m. Central Time, Fight Night Sundays, where I play all different types of fighters, new, old, anybody can come through, can have a good time. We just play. Just a love letter to all fighting games. That's what I do.
You stream it live?
Yeah, I stream it live on Twitch. K-Mega 45 also. And then I was playing Tekken last weekend. So yeah, well, no, the weekend after the Super Bowl. So yeah, I was playing Tekken. And
on PlayStation, right? Because the Xbox One's got a shit res. It hasn't really been updated.
No, I was playing on the Xbox, but the console versions of both of them are awful of Tekken 7. So it's better on PC. But I got Tekken on everything. That's my favorite game ever. So I love Tekken.
Street Fighter man myself. I'm Ken all the way through. So
give me a run. I love it. I love just the competition. It's not about seeing who's the best fighter. It's just about just having fun. And like I said, just a love letter for fighting games.
I'll be good if we played Street Fighter 2 Turbo HD Remix. I was pretty good at that.
Oh, well, we'll play it. I mean, anytime, man. Just hit me up. I mean, Jazz hit me up one time to play me in Killer Instinct, man. It was a blast. It just hit me up out of the blue, send me an invite. And I was like, oh, well, let's go. Let's do it. So,
yeah, I need to get back on that.
Yeah. So, thank you guys so much, man. Really do appreciate it, man. I'll also do another podcast on Thursdays called The Next Podcast on Xbox 448's channel. Come check that out. That's at 7 p.m. Central. So, yeah, other than that, thank you guys so much.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And my battery's running out on the second battery. What the fuck? Anyway, I might put the same battery back. I don't know. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much. K-Mega, you killed it as well. And please do check out her stuff. Isla, thank you for linking K-Mega's stuff on the chat. I will take it up on that offer. I need to get back on my fighting games. It's probably the games I'm probably best at. But yeah, I need to get back on that. chat, thank you so much. You've been lovely in chat. Subscriber only mode was on, so that actually helped filter out a lot of bullshit. I'll keep doing that from in the future. We've got lots of videos coming, as always, tomorrow, 4 p.m. There's already scheduled. No bullshit from Gaz. It's coming out. And I've also got one video. The source is back, and it's time to go for Albert G. No, that means the PlayStation boys. I'm sorry. It's so good to go back to hit on the PlayStation guys. It was painful to hurt the Xbox boys, but he deserved it after the bad capping that they had to endure. But it's all PlayStation goodness. Now. The source is coming for PlayStation, and it's going to be, just be patient with that. And I've also got one more video on comic books, the concepts of it, the very highly edited one. After Effects stuff and all that shit. Hopefully you enjoy it. Please do like and share and support the content, and it helps. And we'll see you next week or tomorrow, whenever. Take care. Peace out. Brah!